I was going to defer to Rick, being as Rick is our secretary, so technically he would be in the succession before I would. But in the absence of either Lee or Rick, I guess I will call this meeting of the Planning Commission of Village of Ortonville to order. Okay, I guess we need to do a pledge of allegiance. Bob, you led it last time.
It wasn't me. I think it was Melanie. I think Melanie did it last time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I cannot read the same thing, although I was in the service.
Liz,
It just
roll
feels
call
awful
vote.
awkward. Yeah, I just can't do it.
Bryce? Here. Hayden?
Present.
MacArthur?
Yes.
McAvinci?
Whatever. Here.
Olson? Here. And Palshan is absent with notice.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'll accept a motion for approval.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Next item is public comments.
Approval of minutes.
Oh, approval, oh, I'm sorry.
And I
missed it.
apologize, I just passed them out to you guys. I left them out of the packet.
Okay, so approval of minutes.
I move that we
They were in our
accept
email.
the minutes as presented.
My second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now we are to number 6, public comments. Do we have any members of the public wish to comment?
Do you guys have any comments?
Seems like no. Okay, then moving on. Chairperson comments. Trying to think if I have any comments. I really haven't had much time to think about comments because of some personal things going on. So I'm going to pass on comments and move on to items from commissioners. So I guess we can start with you, Tanya, and then work our way around.
I have nothing.
Bob?
Excuse me, I attended the village council meeting, the last one that they had, and went over what we had done with an update on the master plan. Hopefully I covered everything that needed to be done with that, and it seemed like that they were, that's right, you wasn't there, was you? They, so I can say anything I want.
You can't. I believe you.
Well, Liz was there, though I can't get away with it. No, but they seemed to be very attentive about what we were doing. There wasn't, just if there was a couple questions, it was pretty minor stuff, but I tried to go through the whole thing of where we were at, so they sat there and listened to it without any real questions or real concern about anything, and I think I seen a lot of heads nodding when I said we were at that 50% mark, like you'd indicated, and I think that's what they were glad to hear, that it was going forward with all of that. And I apologize for, I did get up and speak in reference to the 2 reappointments. That maybe I could have done a better job, I'm not sure, but I did my best. I know like I say, I didn't know what was on there either, and Melanie was sitting right behind me, so I got nudged with that one, and I said, I have no idea. But then nobody got up and spoke, so I did, at least to go over how important the 2 of you are. I mean, the input that we get out of both of you is, it's really important, and we've used it from both of you, not just one individual. But it was pretty obvious that was a done deal. They sat there and wouldn't even look up after the motion was made to make a second. So like I say, that was pretty much a done deal, and it's the way it is. It is what it is. They're the council. That's may not like necessarily the method, but I certainly would have liked to have them vote and make them say no. But they did one of the things they can do in that second. Other than that, that's it.
Okay,
I got nothing.
all right. Okay, that brings us on to new business. As Bob mentioned, with Melanie not being renewed at the last council meeting, we now have an open commissioner's seat. I would like to share that after the village took that action, there was some discussion amongst some of us on the planning commission and about that whole topic about Melanie's reappointment. And we, we all feel, as Bob expressed, that she does provide a lot of good input into our discussion. She does a lot of extra work outside of it too. She definitely is dedicated, and I think it's a real shame that she's a valuable resource, I consider her, and I think it's a real shame that the village did not choose to renew her appointment as a planning commissioner. I guess to some degree I can understand maybe their perspective, because I know Melanie is very passionate about what she does, and when you are passionate about things, sometimes you speak rather strongly, and I think that may have seemed kind of challenging to some of the council members at times, but I would hope that they would be able to set aside any personal feelings that might have been stepped on or anything like that, and set any feelings aside and really take a look at what she brings to the table and her passion for our community, and realize that when you are passionate about things, sometimes those strong passionate feelings come out and they show, and that's what we want. We need people who are passionate about our community on our planning commission and on our council, and I know people on the council are also passionate about things. So I'm hoping that there might be an opportunity to have them reconsider their decision. That's kind of my feelings on the subject, but I know that Rick and Lee, and I think Bob also input on our discussion, email discussion on that topic. So without Rick and Lee being here, I kind of hesitate to move forward much more. So I'm going to throw that topic out for discussion for the rest of you too.
Can I just ask, I mean, maybe we don't get to know why, but is she ever going to get to know why she wasn't reappointed? Is that something, how that works, or is it not something they have to do or can do or will do? I just don't know how it works.
I'm going to raise that question at the meeting. I have a concern that when you have somebody that you're reappointing or somebody that you're interviewing, you give them a chance to come up and speak. My questions would have been, obviously, what have you done to this point that you feel, you'd like to continue? What are your goals? What are your plans? That should be addressed when you're assessing whether somebody should or shouldn't be in a position. I'm very concerned that she wasn't given any chance to have that discussion. I don't know why Lee was not contacted, why, there wasn't any information provided as to him to say, hey, we'd love to have her, reappointed, whatever, things like that. So my concern is, once again, lack of communication.
Okay.
This was a surprise to everybody, and it shouldn't have been.
Okay.
And again, I wasn't there. I'm, across the
Well,
country.
I just didn't know how it
But
worked, so.
when I find out, through
Okay.
texts and phone calls, I'm not happy with that at all. It was, I believe, as somebody else has mentioned, not a separation of personal and professional.
Okay.
And so that will be stated by me on Monday, that I'm not happy with
Okay.
the way it was handled, and that I think it should be reevaluated on a professional level. And
Okay. I
So-
just,
at that point, there's nothing else you can do, but
okay.
yeah.
I just didn't know. so.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what I would like to see done. There was something else from us. I know that there was a lot of discussion about what we should or shouldn't do or could do, but I think with Tanya bringing that to the council in that manner is exactly what should be done, other than sitting there telling them how much we disagree with them. And I don't know if that's so much in our place or not, but I think there's definitely questions that need to be presented to them, and what she just said is exactly what I would like to see done.
Right. I mean, because I wouldn't be able to make that decision without getting some information, so I'm not sure how everybody else would.
Okay.
You know, I would have needed to gather the information before I
Right.
even
I mean,
vote.
if it's a professional reason and there's a valid reason, then she should be given that reason, right?
Correct.
I mean, maybe not just us as a commission, but her as a person, right?
Well, if there was a reason, you would be hearing that at the meetings of a concern of something
Right,
not
right, right.
going well with planning commission, but
Okay.
so
Okay.
it was a surprise.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it still because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Liz, do you know, I don't recall getting a notice that our appointments were going to be on that meeting.
I do know that, and I don't remember how it came to our attention, but it came to our attention that, and it may have just simply been looking at the roster, that the 2 commissioners had expired
Okay.
June of this year, and we threw it, we called, made a phone call to Lee, I believe Bill did, made a phone call to Lee, said these 2 appointments have expired, what do you want us to do? And it was, you know, get it on the agenda, I support it fully.
Okay.
But I think that was a discussion that he had with you, wasn't it, Bill?
Yeah,
Okay.
because technically, you know, with your terms expiring, you know, you could not conduct business basically, you know, you couldn't vote on anything, because that was one of the questions I know that came out to Bob and that is, did we
Thank goodness they had the minutes. I
Take-
don't know if I
take
had them,
any-
give them to me, it was like I
take any real action or
I was
anything?
thumbing
and
through
we
there real
hadn't-
quick to make sure nothing
We
had
hadn't
done.
taken any action at the last meeting, so it wasn't really, other than approve the minutes, so it wasn't, you know, anything that,
Yeah, because I was not aware of it. I know somebody said, well, you guys knew about it, and I said, well, I don't recall personally getting notice that I was going to be on
I
it.
know
so
Melanie
just
did
now,
first.
everybody, now everybody knows, and I.
I
you
got
know,
a
And I was
I got a
considering
note slipped to
attending
me
that
because
meeting,
we were
but
setting
Bob
up a
was going to
meeting.
be there.
You know, do you know anything about this? And
So we
So
have
just,
we have the roster, and just so everybody knows that
Your
your
terms are
terms
on there.
expire in June.
In June.
Except for the council rep, and they would expire
Right.
in November.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because I agree, I have some concerns about the process. I think there was, again, a little bit maybe lack of communication. It's water under the bridge, so it's not to try to find blame or anything like that, but it's like, okay, well, can, you know, let's take that as something that we can maybe find an improvement in the process so that next time we don't have that situation. Because I would have also probably tried to attend that meeting if I had known that my appointment was going to be on there. So in case there was any questions they had for me, I would have been able to respond to them.
just to let you know, they spoke very highly of you at the meeting. That several of them spoke. They didn't say a word about when Melanie's come up, but they spoke very highly of keeping you on the planning commission and your input and what you're able to help with the planning commission.
Okay, well, I appreciate that feedback.
Yep.
Okay. Do we think that there's a need to, I know there was some mention of possibly asking for this topic to be on the next council meeting so we could review the process or something? Do we feel there's a need to ask for that, anybody, or?
Well, if Tanya's gonna talk about it at the next meeting, do we need to have it addressed as a big thing? Or because you're gonna get all
It's
the
just my
answers and just
opinion.
let us know.
Is that just
There
going
will
to
be
be
no
like
answers
items
given
from
back.
trustees
It's
or
just going to
something?
be to provide my opinion that
Okay.
I'm concerned about the
Okay.
process and
Okay.
I'm not really sure what else really could be done other than, unless we want to stir
Start the
an issue
process.
with the council for, you know, for what they did. But as long as they know that we're not happy about it, I think that's the important part, is that they need to know that we just
It's very
didn't
disappointing.
like it.
well, as I discussed with Melanie, the superintendent can't secure his position. It's not a personal offense to Melanie.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So it can go.
I think it's, my concern is, obviously there's a discrepancy of the perception of what Melanie brings to the planning commission between how we see her as a resource versus how the councils view her. And it would have been nice to be able to help clarify or clear up any differences of perception in relation to that, or at least find out the reasons for it. But
Well, that's why I think it's back to not knowing, not being prepared for it. Because if you're able to prepare for the fact that somebody would like to be reappointed, you're able to get the information, you're able to read through your minutes, you're able to watch the videos, you're able to ask questions, you know, you're able to be involved to make an educated decision. So I think the decision was not in the best, you know, not the way it was decided when they did not have the information decided. That's what my concern was.
Yeah, just try to bring you up to speed, Rick. We are on item number 9A, open commissioner seat. And we've already discussed how some of us had communicated about our disappointment in the decision that was made, and you know, that there was some talk about whether we should get it on the agenda. And Tanya has said she's going to bring this up as like an items from trustees or something like that. So not as a formal agenda topic, but she will bring this up at the next meeting with the council that about the way the process was and the lack of opportunity for Melanie to give any input or to find out any feedback from them why the decision. So that's pretty much where we were at. We pretty much reviewed that a little bit and discussed that topic. So. Okay. Do you have anything you want to add from your perspective?
I don't know what was said.
Do you want to share your view or anything? Or?
I need this.
Okay.
But, so, yes, was there any reason why Melanie and Larry weren't notified ahead of time of, I mean, that it was gonna be on the agenda so that they could, or we could all prepare for it, I guess?
Other than the fact that it was noticed that the terms had expired already in July, and, you know, we notified Lee that, hey, this had got through the cracks, and, you know, you're got 2 people on your board whose terms had expired. So asked Lee if he wanted to get it on the agenda, and he said yes. So.
Yeah, so the communication got as far down as Lee, but it didn't get passed to us, unfortunately.
That's a shame. Anyway.
But hopefully we can take that as a learned lesson and do a better job next time around.
Yeah, we could probably put the dates that the next folks come up for
They're
reappointment.
Well, they're on there now,
They've always got them there.
but it didn't say
On where?
June, did it?
Yeah, yeah, it has, it always says at the bottom,
Okay,
Commissioner
Oh,
term
okay.
ends on
So-
June 1 except for the council representative.
right.
In other words, on this roster.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to take the roster and put it on our next several years' calendars so that,
Put it on your refrigerator.
oh, that'll do it.
Well, and for argument's sake, from council position, the agenda is out and people do know ahead of time. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not looking at you just because I'm looking at you, but to take that off of you, it, you
Yeah.
know, it didn't, it's lost everywhere. It's not lost in one place. And, you know, we're kind of trying to figure out where it's lost. It's lost everywhere because every one of us can look at the agenda and know what's coming. So, like I said, no excuses, but I was out of town, I couldn't be there. But I was just as shocked because I didn't look at it as I was gone. I was looking at, you know, going to look at it when I got home, so I didn't realize it till too late too.
Okay. Okay, so any more discussion on this topic, or? All right, in that case, let's move on to unfinished business master plan.
Before you move on, should you not have some kind of process to start
Bless you.
looking for a replacement person?
I suppose, is that initiated more by the planning commission or the council? Because I think in the past, the
Planning
council.
commission, you guys make a recommendation to the council.
Is there anything in the bylaws?
Yeah, you guys make a recommendation to the council.
Okay.
Wasn't there a list? I know when I didn't realize it when I got appointed that there actually was a list of a few names that was, mine was the only one presented to the council, but there was other names there that were either interested or something with it. And the only one I know is Roy, is the only one I know that was interested, but I didn't even find that out until after I was basically appointed.
So
I know
I
Roy
didn't talk to
Would
really
Lee-
Mr. George, but now
would Lee
he's
have the
running
list then, probably?
Oh,
I
Mr.
don't-
George is running?
for treasurer or trustee.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
Who is?
Mr. George.
Oh,
And they talked with him about planning
Okay,
commission.
that's right.
But now I'm running for a trustee, so.
Okay. Do you have any list of candidates yet
No, I don't.
or no? Okay.
So I'm wondering if we have a list.
So,
I mean,
We have
who had the list?
Wayne Wills, he's the one that I spoke to, was
Oh, okay.
Wayne, so. I don't know if he had a list or he just spewed out some names of people that he was contacting, I don't know. But I know there was a couple other names there mentioned, so.
yeah, if you would like us to put something like on the website or put something, you know, Facebook and on the newspaper, you know, we can do all of those. Just,
Yeah,
you know,
the normal places
solicit-
like you would put meeting
to
notices and
solicit,
stuff too would probably be a
you
good
know.
idea.
Well, and to be, the council does, they do ask, you know, what have you done to look
Right.
for
I was
people
just going to
interested?
say to
Yeah.
pursue the
Yeah.
community and make them
So I
aware that
think,
you're.
Yes.
I think if you give us the go-ahead to advertise for candidates for planning commission seat, we'll take it from there.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Seems like the same process is done for council, filling council seats
Okay, so,
and township board, I think.
so we need a motion to advertise for the open position.
I make a motion to advertise for the open position
On the planning commission.
on the planning commission, thank you.
Second?
All right.
And that would be for a term expiring then in 2020, I believe, June 1, 2020 would be the term.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So any more discussion on that?
Um,
Do we need a roll call vote or just,
Just up and down.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Who was the second of the motion?
Rick.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Official.
There you go.
Gently done.
Okay. And with that, then, we can move on to unfinished business, master plan, which brings us to you guys.
Great, thank you. Yeah, well, so first of all, I'm glad to be back here again. But I want to reassure you that Mike will be back again after this. Because of the elections, we had a lot of Tuesday night meetings and schedules got muffed up, so he had a conflict tonight, so that's why he's not here. But again, I'm glad to be here after the concerns that were expressed last time and try to get back on track and make sure things are moving forward. Also with me tonight is Susan Cronander, who's a senior planner with McKenna, who's going to be helping Mike out as the project moves forward. So give him a hand and help him, like I said, make sure this project stays on track. So we've done a lot of work since the last meeting. The first thing I want to go over real quick is the project schedule. That was one of the questions that came up last time, and I want to make sure you can see how we're going to get to the end of this process and the logic behind it. So we've basically broken down the elements of the plan and proposed to provide it to you in sort of a logical way. The first step is to provide a draft. So we've given you a draft of the goals and objectives section to review prior to the meeting. Then we'll take time at the meeting to review what we've distributed to you, get your comments, and then we'll go back and incorporate those comments into what amounts to a final draft. Okay? So what you received for this meeting was the goals and objectives. What you'll receive prior to the next meeting is going to be the future land use plan for you to review prior to that meeting. Then we'll take your comments on the future land use plan, incorporate those comments into a final draft. And then the last section that we're going to send out to you is the implementation and opportunities section of the plan. So again, we'll send that out to you before the meeting at which you'll review it. Then you'll review it, give us comments, and then we'll incorporate those comments. Then we'll take all three of those sections together and present those to you on October 2nd. I'm sorry, October 9th. Yeah, October 9th. For you to sign off on, make sure we've got all the comments included in the document, make sure we've addressed all the concerns, take one more look at it. And then at that meeting, we would hope that you would recommend it to the village council for their review and approval for distribution. And then at that point, the plan would be distributed to the surrounding communities, the county, and other identified entities for their 63-day review. And then once that process is done, it comes back, we hold a public hearing, incorporate comments from the adjacent communities or other entities, as well as from the public, clean it all up, put a bow on it, and then recommend it to village council. I believe they're the ones who are going to adopt it. So that's sort of the process. And it sounds very simple, but there's a lot of work that's going to happen over the course of those next couple of months. Is there any questions?
Can I ask you how common, my concern is, you're talking right at elections. So you are having a new group coming in that have no idea what's going on with this, and they're adopting this 3 weeks into their, is that a concern, or am I the only one that's voiced that concern to you in general, with communities in general?
No, it's definitely...
Because if you wait again, then you're talking Christmas, which is just as difficult, but yet you can't rush it and move it up, so that's a concern.
It's something to be considered. You know, I can't advise you necessarily how to handle that, you know, but it is going to require bringing village council up to speed if there are new members. We're obviously very happy to sit down with any new members that might be on village council and kind of walk them through where we've been in the process, give them an orientation. We're happy to do that, but you know, with elections may come a change in perspectives and things like that. So,
right. So that's what I'm looking at. You've got possibly one council approving the draft and then a new council coming in to approve the final. Is it not best that both do both? Is that not going to cause a problem? That's what I'm asking. Like,
well, so
will you get a whole bunch of people, you know,
so
new minds?
So your options really are to have the new group review the draft before it gets distributed.
Well, if I'm looking at the timing right, if the village council requests approval for distribution for the 63-day review, they don't adopt it till after that 63-day review, which takes us into January.
Right, so you've got the old council deciding and approving, and then a new council coming in with all these ideas and changing possibly things that they may or may not agree with.
Okay.
So either one set or the other is my thought process, and like I said, maybe I'm overthinking things.
No, that's a good
you've
point.
got
Do
two
we
totally
wait
different
until
minds
after the
either
election
way.
before we move into the final group? That's a good point.
But wouldn't the new council, if it is a new council, wouldn't the new council have that 63 days to go over it? And
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm asking. I don't know.
Right.
I'm trying to.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because could you be then back to starting all over again with all the additional input? That's what I was asking.
Okay.
Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know.
Well, so
Just a
maybe
thought.
the people that are, if anybody gets in new, and someone will, part of their immediate duties will be to go over this and, you know, learn about it, be familiar with it, and be prepared to deal with it when it comes back.
Yeah, and we would have potentially 2 planning commission meetings we can invite them to attend where we can answer any questions, and also potential council meetings. We could also be at the council meeting to help them too. So we have like 4 opportunities potentially to help bring them up to speed or educate them more if they have any concerns or questions or clarification needed.
As far as, so that's sort of, there's 2 questions to me it seems like. One is logistics, right? You don't want 2 different bodies reviewing the document possibly. But the other one is strategically, and I don't think really there's a strategic
Right.
question at play here, because even if there was a clean sweep of the village council and you had a whole new council in there and you adopted it the day before they came into office, they could just as easily, you know,
Right.
revisit the plan and do it their own way. So there's really no pro or con in my mind
Doesn't
from
make
that.
sense, okay. That's why I was asking you, like, you know,
Yeah.
you are, you know, used to, I would
Right.
say a lot of communities in the same situation. Is it a concern, is it not a concern?
I mean, I think the legitimate concern is making sure that any newly elected is familiar with what they're gonna be acting on. And so, as it's been discussed, there's a lot of opportunities to bring them up to speed.
I guess, thinking about that, wrapping my head around a little bit, I guess, my opinion would be as long as the final draft of the master plan is clearly supported by all of the evidence and community outreach and all of the other surveys and feedback that we've gotten from the community and from the other entities, if we can clearly support everything that's in there from all of the research and outreach we did, then I think that there should be minimum issues with whether it's the old council or a new council in terms of approving what's the elements that are in the master plan, as long as we can show that everything is based upon what the community has given us for input.
Good point. I should have said
I agree, it's a darn good question, though. I hadn't
Yeah,
thought
it is a
about
good
that.
question.
I'll take maybe a little bit of work on our part to make sure they're up to,
And that's a very overwhelming 2 weeks into your position to be approving something that's been a year process.
Yeah, it does kind of put maybe some extra burden on us to be extra attentive to ensure that there's nothing that's ambiguous or questionable in terms of, hey, why is this in here, or something like that, so we can make sure that we do have good, clear answers to anything that might be questioned.
So, I can imagine having some actual workshops if we have new people on the council after the election, probably here, to go over it with anybody that's in the council that needs help getting through it all. And, you know, maybe the next couple of planning commission meetings would be dedicated just to that. Within that 63-day period. And I guess that would mean 2 of our meetings, maybe, or extra meetings, or rearrange our meetings so that
and it really depends on who gets elected.
it does.
Well,
We
there's
can certainly keep
definitely-
our options open.
There has to be new people. Because if people leave, there, you know, what I'm saying, there are people leaving, there has to be at
They
least
have
one
to
new
be
person.
replaced, no,
Correct.
absolutely.
So we know there are new people.
But
We
those
just
new
don't know
people
how
may
many.
be up to speed already.
I like the idea of a simple workshop and inviting to the meetings and
And I think that's about
giving
the
them
best
the
we can
opportunity
do.
to not be overwhelmed with it.
I think that is probably better than putting off until after the election, whatever next steps are, major steps are.
In my mind, I think that also serves a dual purpose, because it also helps to establish right up front that open communication between the
Yeah.
new council members and the planning commission, so that we can get off on a good foot with them.
Sure.
Yeah, bottom line, you'll have either 2 or 3 new members. Then, I mean, the new president will come from the existing council, so you'll have 4 that are on the current council, and then there's potential that 1 council person could be replaced, but, so you'll have 2 or 3 new members.
Okay, you're welcome. So, at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion about, you know, where the different comments were coming from, how they were being incorporated into the draft goals and objectives. And there was questions also about what happened to the proposed vision statements. And so if you look on page 26 and 27 of the handout, that we gave you last week, we included the 6 different vision statements. And I guess I would like to take some time to sort of look at these and see which of these or parts of these most closely represent a vision statement that the Planning Commission is comfortable with. And then I think that could accompany all future correspondence to get additional comments from the village council, the adjacent communities, at the public hearing and so on. So one thing we did want to point out is that some of these vision statements are more comprehensive, should we say, than others. I think, again, to make the vision statement really effective, it should be a statement of an end condition, how you see Ortonville in the future. And it should be broad, but it should definitely include the issues that are important from a broad standpoint. So with that, I'd like to kind of go through these and get your input on what might be a good synthesis of these different statements.
Could I just ask you to just share one thing before we go through these? Because in my business, you know, we get vision statements and goals and objectives and strategies and things. So it would be, in my mind, I think it would be helpful to clarify what's the difference between a vision compared to a strategy compared to a goal.
Okay, sure. So the way it's broken down is the vision, as I mentioned, is sort of an end state, ideal end game statement. Okay, it's a statement of what you want things to look like. Goals are more specific, and in this case, we have 9 different goals that are identified that were intended to help achieve this vision that you're going to come up with. So the goals are intended to achieve the vision. So the goals are broad statements, and then the next level of strategy is the objectives. And the objectives are more measurable, and each goal that you have, all the 9 goals, have a number of objectives that are more specific and they're action oriented. They talk about how we're going to achieve the goals, which will then result in the vision. And then finally, in the implementation is where we have strategies or actions that would then be the outcome of the specific objectives. Objectives are intended to be measurable, so you can say definitively we've achieved that, we've not achieved that. We've increased the amount of retail available in the community, or we've not. That might be one example of an objective. So that's kind of the breakdown of how you get from the big, broad vision statement to the goals, to the objectives, and then to the nitty-gritty action statements.
I just wanted that to be, you know, put that in perspective, because some of these things look a little more appropriate at the goals level potentially, and so, you know, for the vision, it is a more general topic usually. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So has everyone had a chance to read these vision statements?
Yes.
Is there one you want to start with that seems to embody?
Does anybody want any highlighters or anything?
Something like that.
Okay, well, I have some of my desk.
Well, I think those are dry erase. Or
Those
permanent
dry
or
erase.
something.
I'll jump out there. I think, based on my prior experience, it looks kind of like number 6 is kind of like incorporates kind of the vision of what you're trying to do, and it may get a little, you know, but it kind of in my mind, I think number 3 was just, even though it had a lot of good things, like you said, Larry, it's more or less, that's kind of getting down into the objectives and things they want to change, where my experience in the past is vision statements typically are a pretty short paragraph, you know, that just kind of gives broad.
There you go, too.
But it deals with those issues we talked about, encouraging business, walkability, some of the things that y'all want.
I think that's, I like number 4 for the same reason. It's all encompassed in one,
Yeah, I like that too, it's short.
and maybe, you know, combined or expand, but they're
Yeah.
similar.
Yep.
See, that one sentence is what I think of as a vision statement.
Right.
It's
a
just
quick-
a quick 1 or 2 sentence, but that's just,
On page 27, the 4th paragraph, silly, but there's a typo. It says example size instead of signs.
Or sings.
Or sings, is that what it was? I already wrote on it.
Oh,
Sings
yeah.
instead of signs. Because it took me a minute. I'm thinking, I know we were talking about the music at the pub, but what's sing?
Yeah.
And then it hit me.
Oh, there's another typo there.
And then
The
throughout,
last, yeah, throughout.
I was just gonna say. The last paragraph in that same one.
Huh, that's weird.
What is that note?
I turned the temperature down because I have
Pretty
it,
monkey.
well, and we've been working in the program mode, trying to make everybody in the office comfortable, and it shuts off at night.
Except for me. Except for me. The fat guy sits there cooking all day.
Would you stop it?
Ooh, it's cool.
You need to put the fake thermostats on the
Yeah.
wall.
I can't wait, we're gonna get those that hook to your phone.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You get those that hook to your phone.
We're not gonna give you access.
He doesn't
You're
get
not
the
gonna
code.
go, Siri, turn up the temperature. Siri, turn down the temperature.
Before we really needs to have something added in about the businesses.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking, a combination of 4 and 6. Because I do like the symbol of what a small town means, and then that expands upon it.
Yeah, I agree with you. 6 is a little long still. I like 4.
Maybe we can find some key things that can kind of summarize those things into, things from each of them.
You know, I like, if I could just jump in, I like the tone of 6, you know, like I said, it talks about will be, you know, as a definitive condition, so I like the tone of it.
Oh, there's another typo in the last paragraph. Local.
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 I think my only concern with 6 is it says I want to see it become, I think some of us believe it is, we would like to see it continue to be.
So what I wrote here is, being an end condition, I said, Ortonville is the symbol of what a small town community should be.
And then what it will become after that following. I like that.
On number 6, the only thing I would caution is on the last paragraph there where it says the second to last line. It says will allow residents to have all their basic needs. So my only concern with that is it may open the door to some things that you may not necessarily want.
So just omit all,
Well, I would just to say, have,
they're
they're basic, yeah, yeah.
So you're thinking of having that whole paragraph in the vision statement, is it?
That's up to you guys. If you want to try to blend 4 and 6 together, that's fine. I think 3 is too long and gets into objective language, whereas I think, again, the tone on 6 is pretty solid, I would say.
You had said something, and I didn't write it down when you said it, but you combined part of, something about what a small town
Yes.
community should be, and tagging that somewhere on 4.
Well, I just on 6, I just changed it to say, instead of I want to see, I just had it say Ortonville is the symbol of what a small town community should be.
I mean, you said about the basic needs, government services, post office and library, those basic needs. I mean, basic needs are food, water, and clothing. Should it be conveniences? I mean, those aren't needs.
What is a community for? Just to provide food.
It's more than needs, right? That's what I mean, it shouldn't
Food.
be needs, what should it be?
Housing. I mean, things like
I mean,
post office
conveniences.
and service, government services are pretty basic amenities that communities provide. You would think. And of course, public safety.
Part of the question is how long or short do we think a vision statement should be? Because you could probably simplify or shorten a lot of that down to a 1 or 2 sentence.
If you get it down to 1 or 2 sentences, what's the purpose of it? I can't imagine why you want it down to 1 or 2 sentences.
Is there an ideal goal on a vision statement? I mean, I know mission statement is 1 to 3, is it, what's a vision goal?
There's no hard and fast rule.
Yeah, mission
Okay.
statement usually is a 1 sentence,
Right.
and then a vision is typically a little bit longer.
But not much usually. I mean,
You're
that's-
really trying to paint a little bit of a picture here with the vision.
Yeah.
At work, it's to design, build, and sell the world's best vehicles, so it's one short sentence. And I think that incorporates everything,
Yeah.
but for that.
Yeah. Try doing that. for this
I'm just saying,
Yeah, go.
that's what I'm thinking, you
Yeah.
know,
That-
that's what I'm
That sounds
thinking.
like a mission statement to me.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
Yeah, I guess you're right.
yeah, the vision, because the vision is more of a picture, and to paint a picture, you might need to put a
More
little
than
bit
just
more details in there than
eight
just
words.
what you get in a mission statement.
You're right.
You don't want to get too much nitty gritty, so, it's got to be somewhere in between the mission statement and your list of goals and stuff like that. So somewhere in between those two is where the vision fits in, where you paint the picture with enough detail that people can see it, but not so far down to where, you don't have to plant every flowers in this place and that and everything else.
I kind of like vision statement 8 for those reasons. It's pretty concise and it's pretty forward thinking. And sort of covers several different things without a lot of nitty gritty.
Yeah, that's it. The only thing is it seems to kind of lack any type of vision for the downtown area.
it's so broad that it didn't even get into the downtown.
So, I mean-
I was just gonna say, my thought is with the downtown and residents, you're separating and it should not be separated. I think it should be combined. And in the downtown, you mention your residents numerous times, but in the residents,
we mentioned
it then talks about things for people to go out there, things for people to take advantage of, and then providing their privacy, peace, and quiet. So it's like we're talking both ways. Do we want them isolated, not I'm saying isolated or out there? It's contradictory versus everything being all in one. We can provide all of these things for you. You know what I'm saying? We keep separating our businesses and our residents, and I think this one does, instead of it being combined together with a few sentences. But I think it'd be good to combine them.
It seemed like the one thing that I did attend, that vision statement, everything that we do as a planning commission or the council or whatever, that vision statement should be something that they look back on and say, did we do that? Have we done what our vision was? You know, for any one of these, to go back and say, okay, whatever this project we did accomplish something in our vision statement that we said we were going to do. Otherwise,
Well, I think
you're running
I'm not
off
su-
into other directions and
I'm
everything
not
else.
sure if that's, the vision does provide the direction, the broad direction. But then the goals also, when we get to the goals. and
Correct.
The goals really is where we can define a little bit more clearly, just, how do we specifically get to this picture? And that's really where you start measuring your projects and stuff. And your decisions is based on, okay, which goal is this helping us to achieve? Things like that. And of course, the goals have to be aligned with that big picture vision. So it's like, okay, I'm going to need to implement this. Is that in alignment with a particular goal? And is that in alignment with the big picture too? So they're all important. They all tie together at different levels.
Again, you guys have to own this vision statement, obviously, but when I look at number 4, it could be almost anywhere. You know what I mean? It's so boiled down that it could just about be anywhere. Whereas, I think 6 starts to incorporate some of the issues that you're dealing with locally.
Yeah, I would see statement 4 as almost more of a mission statement. This is our one sentence hits everything. I like all the elements on there, but I think they do need to expand a little bit more on, to be able to provide a better picture, more specific for our community and the desires of the people in our community.
What about the last sentence, on number 6, the last sentence about like the traffic flow? That seems a little more specific than maybe what you need. And then
Yeah, well, maybe we start pairing out stuff that we say
And then
doesn't need to be in there.
you really don't control, for lack of a better term, the post office or the library are things that, we don't control as a village.
Right.
Or the police and fire, and that's township and village.
Yeah,
That's why I said the government services.
yeah.
Okay, so taking out the government services.
Just to play devil's advocate, I know that you don't have control over some of these facilities, but think of the impact if they were going to pick those up and move them out into the township, the impact that would have on the downtown. And I think as we get into the goals and objectives, we might talk about working with other agencies, you know, just to mutual benefit. So, you know, I think if it is important to you and important to the downtown to have those facilities there, you may want to think about leaving it in.
Leaving in traffic.
No, about.
No, I'm talking government
services,
facilities.
post office,
Post
library.
office and library in town.
I think it is important to have those services in the town because I'm not, and I think that if they were in, even if the township moved, for example, to, you know, that's why I thought that if they moved to that school property, that still puts it within the town, as opposed to taking it completely out.
You mean Belland School?
No, the one property that they're gonna make into a sports complex now, or at least,
They were
Fletcher.
gonna
It's
put
planned.
it in.
I thought the township was
Right.
considered
Belland.
Belland School.
I know they're considering Bel Ann. I would not want to see them move out to there.
Not even-
But they're also purchased the property near the high school, so it is inevitable. I mean, in a future time.
They purchased that a long time ago, because in the past they said, hey, you can go to the sewer
I knew that look on your
facility.
face where you.
That's
Put the
just
fire
keeping my
out
mouth
here.
shut.
Yeah.
I have a theory of all that. But that whole system was done on the premise that sewers was going to be in this village. At the time when that was purchased, sewers was a very positive project that was going to be pushed and be done in the village. That's when that was done. So sewers come in, that would free up a lot of property for the business district to grow.
And, you know, I was
Didn't work
on
out that
council
way.
back in those days, and I think that, see, you still see a lot of that split, that dichotomy between the very positive, hey, we absolutely need sewers, these are essential, and we absolutely know we are absolutely do not need sewers and should not even consider them. I think even back in those days, there still was that split. It just was maybe not as readily apparent because I think a lot of people that were in opposition didn't speak out so much at that time. I mean, you mostly heard the positive stuff at that time and why it would be beneficial. But I think there was still a lot of sentiment within the community that just had not come out yet against them. You know, when it came to the vote is when people came out of their houses and expressed their opinions. And that was kind of a big surprise and wake up on how many people were really opposed to it.
Well, get back to the vision statements, I think it's positive that we seem to be focusing on 2 out of the 8, so that's good. You know, if anyone wants to take a crack at amending number 6, you know, that would be great. Otherwise, you know, we can include vision statement 6 in the draft, and we can continue to sort of noodle on number 6. That sound good? Okay.
Noodle.
Noodle.
Yes.
That's planner jargon.
Golf. I say it's a golf ball too.
Okay, so moving on to the next thing we want to talk about is to go through the goals and objectives. Again, we started, these goals are from the last plan that the village adopted, so the text in here remains unchanged, with the exception of there's some additions in there, I believe. And the other thing that we did with the objectives is we took a stab at sort of modifying the objectives based on the public feedback that we got and the feedback from the planning commission and other, and the village council. So that's what you see in the red. And you can see again the scoring of how many people, how they rank these as important or you know, how important they felt these issues were. And then at the end of each objective section, we have the raw information that came from the various sources. So if there's something in that raw data that you don't see reflected in the objectives, you know, now would be the time to try to incorporate that. But, you know, we took a crack at it just so we weren't starting from a blank sheet of paper. So I guess we're looking at page 3.
So you said these are, did you say that they're mainly from the previous master plan?
So
You just grabbed those and incorporated new information into those?
So the goals are pretty much intact from the previous plan, and then the objectives, the black text is from the previous document, and then the red is added text.
Right. And so did you or Mike find any different and new goals from the surveys this time and from the open house meeting?
No, our approach was to take the information that we got and tuck it into the 9 goals that we already had to start with, just to help organize. But if you look, we did include, I believe, 1 additional goal.
Yeah, non-residential development has a little red section in there for perhaps local entertainment, because that was brought up. Local kinds of culture. And then another page ahead, community image.
Page 11.
Right, page 11, thank you. We inserted provide a clear sense of entry into the village, because that was brought up several times as well. So that was added, I think.
Most of the modifications were in the objectives, not so
Yeah.
much in the goals.
Yeah, I think those were the only two adding changes, or drafts, proposed
It's like a lot of
suggestions.
work. What?
So, you know, just to jump in on one that definitely needs attention, on page 3. Let's see, we should probably number these objectives too. We should number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th one down, where it says sanitary sewer service is a prerequisite for the success and continued development of downtown. I think we better modify that puppy. Based on the last conversation.
Based on action by the council, both, their direction is pretty clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 should probably be eliminated, period.
Well, I've expressed my view on that before. I think we need to make a clear statement that there is no plans to spend taxpayer dollars on sanitary sewer system for the entire community. However, I think we do need to recognize that the businesses do have an impact from the lack of sanitary sewers, and we certainly don't want to discourage businesses if they want to take initiative to try to alleviate their situation. We should support any efforts they put out, short of spending tax dollars on it. And I would say, okay, in spending actual dollars, I think if we take some meeting time to work with them and discuss needs with them, I think that's should be acceptable, as long as we're not, allocating budget funding towards it. That's my view, is we need to still be supportive of the businesses, and we recognize their needs, but we also have to acknowledge that the community at this time is not supportive of spending any of our tax dollars on community-wide sewer system. And the only reason I would like to see something there is because I think it would not really be doing our due diligence if we just bury the matter and didn't even address it, because it is a big topic. And I think we need to recognize that it's there.
And realize that our businesses pay into taxes for their assistance as well, not just the residents. So
Yes.
we have to do both, and I understand the residents voted no in the residential areas, but the businesses don't have a say and pay taxes as well. So we have to,
Yes.
balance that.
That's why I think we have to find some way to balance and say we recognize the will of the community, but we also will do what we can to support the businesses, short of infringing on what the community wants.
So does that mean we're gonna reward 5 and 6 to put in something like that? Or are we removing it altogether, 5 and 6? Well, I'm just gonna put a cross through mine.
I think probably 5, the way it is, I don't see any way to reword that. That would not imply that we're going to be spending. I think
Well, you could
5
say
probably-
sanitary sewer service is a concern for the success and development of downtown. We all agree on that. How is it going to be solved? That's where the disagreement comes
But
Sanitary sewer service is a concern for the success and continued development of downtown. However, there are currently no plans to spend taxpayer funds on the development of sanitary sewer service.
Yeah, a concern
I
or
mean, you
has
could
a
say option,
significant
you could say
impact
anything.
on the success.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
What did you just say?
I said, rather than concern, is a concern, say, sanitary sewer service has a significant impact for the success and continued development of downtown. However, at this time, the will of the community does not support spending any taxpayer dollars for a comprehensive sewer system for the community.
And the rest gets struck out.
Especially paragraph 6.
I don't know if we want to include anything about the community will support business initiatives to address the situation short of expenditure of taxpayer dollars.
The village will not object to the businesses investigating the feasibility of decentralized system or combination systems. Is that too much?
I guess I'm saying you're telling people that they're going to support something that they haven't told you that they will or won't support. If we say they're in support of, or they could be, we don't know that. Because that was never the question to the residents. The question to the residents was village-wide. It was never supporting some and not. So we've never addressed it with people, whether they would choose to support partially.
Yeah, if we wanted to reword that, I might say if we start out number 6 by saying the village will support a business-driven and funded investigation of the feasibility of decentralized systems, blah, blah, blah.
Who's the village?
Yeah.
we are the village, the residents.
Village is capitalized. Who's the village? In this
Oh.
context.
I would say
Ortonville.
ultimately
The village
it's
of
council.
Ortonville? Council,
So that's, no,
So we can't tell the council what they're going to support.
that's what I'm saying, you
Okay.
can't pigeonhole
So
They-
basically, we need, in
It
that
wouldn't
case, what
work.
we need to do is maybe we need to take back to council the rewording on number 5, say,
Yeah.
look, we still want to recognize that there's a significant impact on the potential success of the downtown because of the sanitary sewer. But we also want to acknowledge that the ruling committee says we are not going to plan on spending taxpayer dollars, so we will make a clear statement like that. However, then we need to also ask them, what about number 6 is, how far is the council willing to be flexible in supporting the businesses? If the businesses take up an initiative to try to come up with their own solution, how supportive or flexible will the council be, short of spending taxpayer dollars to support a business initiative? And see if we can find out, get some feeling from them on what sort of statement they may or may not be willing to support or not.
This is why I think it's very hard to be predicting what somebody coming in November is going to decide, think, and feel. That's why this is so hard.
I agree with that, but.
So I don't think you should, I think it should be really broad. The sewer's impact, that's a fact, it's done, it's over. Will we or not support businesses? That's up to them to decide at some future point if they choose to. Not to put somebody on and say, do you want to? If you sent me an email that said, hey, do you guys, what do you think? I have no
So
idea,
then
we haven't sat down and
We could get
talked
more
about
generic
it.
and say, the village may be willing to support a business-initiated investigation of.
I don't feel that if the business wants to do something, they can do that. They do or don't need the support. If it falls within ordinances, they have every right
Now, I
to.
don't want to say, look, the village is absolutely not going to support the businesses. I don't think that is, as was mentioned, the businesses also are taxpayers, and they do provide revenues for the government. So, I mean, I think we should at least acknowledge that, okay, yes, the community says no sewers for the community-wide. We will not spend taxpayer dollars on community-wide sewers. However, short of spending taxpayer dollars, we may consider support for a business initiative to try to alleviate the situation in the downtown, but it has to be, a business-driven initiative.
Well, what if instead of, because I think the term that might be creating some conflict here is the term support. So maybe if you said, it's pretty passive, but if you said it's understood that the business district may choose to pursue this, in that way no one's obligated to anything.
But if we're putting out there that there's no obligation, why even put anything in there at all? Why not just scratch it? And if they choose to do something, they're gonna do it. If they wanna make their business bigger, they make their business bigger. If they wanna change from books to magazines, then
Well,
that's their choice. So why are we putting anything in there when it's their choice? And they don't need us to approve their choice, right? Or am I misunderstanding?
So,
Now, are you
Yeah, I
thinking,
guess-
as Larry's saying, that you're worried about losing the placeholder of the work that's been accomplished to point?
Well,
Or
my
not?
main concern is I don't want to basically put out a master plan that is going to completely discourage new business in the community, because it says basically, if it has a statement that just says, hey, we're not going to spend any money on sewers, period, nothing else, then the business is going to say, well, that means that they're not going to support us at all. Then why would we even try to locate Ortonville knowing that the community's not supportive of
Especially new
our
business.
business?
But there's nothing in here that says they're not supportive of it.
Right,
Matter of
there's
fact,
nothing in there about
matter of
sewers
fact,
at all.
number
That says that
7,
they are supportive. of
matter of fact,
businesses
number
either.
7 goes contrary to that.
Encourage new types of businesses
Don't
such
require
as work
sewers.
hubs that don't require sewers.
So that, says that.
Can't it just say we encourage
New types of businesses?
And then not say
Correct.
such as, or anything, we encourage new types of businesses, which we do. We'd love to have more businesses downtown.
now,
And then you figure out your.
Maybe, I would
Concerns
I
and
would
solutions.
maybe suggest, make that a little more generic and take out sewers and say, encourage newer types of businesses that can thrive within the limitations in our
The
community.
current limitations.
Within the current limitations in our community or something.
You
So
wanna
that
be
we-
negative?
We don't
Yeah,
have
we're
to take.
pointing out the.
Current.
What's that?
It's a
Condition.
negative.
By restrictions.
current conditions.
They
Yeah,
can
so-
just thrive in the village,
Yeah, they can,
thrive in the village.
In the current environment?
in the current environment in the village or something.
east.
Work items.
Yeah, and take sewers out of that line there.
So, look at this goal. It says, future development should respect the historic character of the village while expanding the vitality and range of services available in the downtown area. So if you're gonna say expanding the vitality and range of services available,
Encouraging new types of businesses would
yeah,
fall within that.
we're gonna do something, some objectives to go with that goal, and what is, it just gets back to, you know, we can have stamp stores, or coin stores, but if we want things that people identify in these statements, a lot of people identify that they would like to have restaurants, brewery type restaurants mentioned,
Yeah,
and
but
other.
now,
So, I'm just saying that, if we look at what people have said they want, how are we gonna, expand the vitality and range of services?
Well, we
Toward
talked,
those things that they
well,
want.
we talked last time that there may have to be a different way to provide those restaurants by food trucks and other self-contained types of, you know, facilities.
Well, food trucks would be an easy thing.
Yeah.
Well, and the DDA is currently working with Oakland County to specifically decide which is the best fit of businesses and market those businesses with us. So, you know, as we all work together, you can't pigeonhole and reduce and make things negative. We have to just keep it open. New types of businesses. Interpret that however you want.
I'm gonna ask, when I read through that, it seemed to me when I was reading through that, that a majority of those suggestions or big ideas for that incorporated like restaurants or food places or things like that seem to be coming more from the non-residents as opposed to the residents when I was looking at the BRs versus BNs. Do you have any feel for how much of that was a resident feeling towards the restaurants and coffee shops and things, or and how much of that versus how much of that was the external non-resident input? That's kind of what I picked up when I was looking through that. I noticed that more of the restaurant comments were coming from non-residents.
I think because more residents understand the restrictions we're under. And the non-residents don't quite, you know,
And I think
have that
many of the
connection.
residents connect downtown restaurant with the sewer issue, and if they don't want sewers, they don't.
They know they can't have.
a restaurant.
Yeah, I think maybe some of the non-residents were business owners, so.
I mean, trust me, I'd love to see like Starbucks or Big D's go up and down, because then I get coffee there, but.
So right now I have it reworked on number 5 where it says sanitary sewer service has a significant impact on the success and continued development of downtown. However, there are currently no plans to spend taxpayer funds on the development of a sanitary sewer service. Okay, and then on the next one after that, I guess we just whack it. That kind of
Okay.
what we're leaning.
Is it really necessary to say in there spending taxpayers' funds?
Resources.
So however,
It just seems,
And
I think
not,
the
no
however
plans to
becomes
allocate
negative.
resources.
yeah.
from the however on, it kind of becomes negative.
I mean, just because the council said that in their motion doesn't mean that we, you know, not spending taxpayers' fund.
Well, I think
It
this
just
is-
doesn't sound like something of ours.
But I think that it was not just the current council that said that. I think the voters sent a clear message.
They did, but
almost
those are
9 to
the
1
exact words
that
of
they did
the
not
village
want.
council, you know, being concerned of this plan. That they just wanted to make sure that there wasn't taxpayers' funds being used in it, but to me, it just seems kind of strange to have that in our 5-year plan, saying we're not gonna use taxpayers' funds. It just, I liked exactly what you said there, other than just that little part.
So there's no
That's my thought.
current
Is, so,
action, activity, whatever. at this time. It doesn't have to be
Right,
about
say
money,
that we're
but there
not,
is no
but I-
process right
It's
now.
the
Well,
term.
well, we
There's no
could
plan
maybe make
for
it a
this.
little more generous, say there are
And
no
no
plans to
current-
fund a sanitary
But
sewer.
right now-
Yeah, that's
Plans
fine.
are-
I just don't like the statement.
Instead of putting
Taxpayer.
taxpayer dollars, just say there's no plans to fund a sanitary sewer.
And maybe that's just
Or
because the
to
council
develop,
said it.
yeah, to develop.
There's nothing in place right
There
now.
are currently no plans to
Per
develop
se.
a sanitary sewer service.
Correct.
Currently no
So-
I mean,
pursuit.
what the heck, that's
Oh, I like
exactly
that.
what it is.
There is currently no
We
pursuit
have no
of,
plans to do that, so
because plans are future.
drop it.
Current
It's
is
like-
Yeah.
It's like a hot
So-
potato, just.
So I suppose we could either say there's no plans to develop or no plans to fund development, either way, depending on whether we want to include the money aspect or not.
So the question I have then is, why put something in here now that in the master plan that we are obviously not going to do?
Well-
I know what you said. Now, you want to make sure it's mentioned, but what's the purpose of mentioning it? Mentioning it in this 5-year master plan if we're not going to, we're gonna already been decided we're not gonna do anything about it. What's the point?
It is, from my view, I think it is a factor that has to be taken into consideration when we're looking at implementing another master plan, that this is something that has an impact, and we can't just ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist. So it does have an impact on the types of businesses and the type of development we can do. So we have to acknowledge that, hey, there's a situation, and right now we can't do anything about the situation, so we have to work within this constraint. It's just a constraint that I think needs to be in there.
It is. Just seems kind of counterproductive to put it in there and then say, okay, but we're not gonna do anything about it.
Yeah, but I'm just
Just
one
seems
person
odd.
on this side.
So why
Really,
wouldn't,
I want
why wouldn't
everybody
you just
to-
go to 7 and scratch those 2 and just go to 7 and say you're gonna focus your efforts on bringing in businesses that don't require sewer?
Well, we're not gonna say they don't require a sewage system, we're just saying encourage new types of businesses, right?
Use your imagination.
Yeah.
We're
I-
happy with, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, we could, like you said, encourage newer types of business such as work hubs that can thrive in the current downtown environment. Something like
Kind of it
that.
in a nutshell, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that basically takes out sewers out of the picture entirely, says, look, it's the current environment, we want to encourage businesses that can thrive in our current downtown environment. It is what it is.
Because current could be something different in 2, 5, 7, I mean, I know it's my plan, but current is now.
And that's just it. If things change in the next 5 years, we definitely can revisit this the next time this master plan update
I
comes
sound like
up. If the
politicians.
situation changes.
What about number 5? Sanitary sewer services has an impact, or a significant impact for the success and continued development of downtown. No, however, no current pursuit to obtain a sewer system, blah, blah, blah. It's current, it's now. Nothing about 5 years from now.
There are currently no plans to pursue the development of a
No.
sanitary sewer.
Changed my mind, that's not a good idea.
I'm still with Rick on the why put it in there if we're not doing it, but that's just, I thought that from the
It
beginning.
just
so.
seems odd.
My only concern is we asked people their input, people gave the input.
Right?
This is the input. So are we going to take it out, or are we going to balance it?
So let me throw this.
Says exactly what you want.
Well, let me throw this out here. So these, as we went through sort of the difference between goals and objectives, these are intended to be actionable, measurable activities. So maybe it's not appropriate to have reference to this in here, but maybe we can reference the issue in the body of the document where we talk about existing utilities or something like that. Just a quick reference to here's where we're at, period.
Okay.
So the issue doesn't get lost, it's in there, but it's not in a table of actions.
Okay. And then I think
Or
if we
discussion.
basically just have some kind of statement similar about, is there any place for constraints or things like that that we have in the document?
Sure, yeah, yep.
So maybe move it
Existing
out.
conditions,
Move
Move
existing
5 and
conditions.
6, take 5 and 6 out of there entirely, but just acknowledge it somewhere else. in
Yeah.
this one. And then we could maybe just expand a little bit on number 7. encourage newer types of business such as work hubs that can thrive in the current downtown environment. I think that would be a good goal because it says, hey, we want to encourage development within the current environment. I think that's a pretty clear statement or a goal to go towards.
Okay, got it.
Without sounding
Because
negative.
I think that's what you had
do
at one point, then did that very statement, and that you just said, that makes sense to me.
Okay. Awesome.
So you're providing
Sewers
value by
always-
helping facilitate the
Yeah,
thought
garbage to
process.
talk about.
There you go.
But you got the hard part out of the way, so
Page one?
the rest will be easy.
So where were we at? We have
Right, I think we're on
scratch 5 and
page
6.
page 4.
Updated some.
Wait, are we on page 4?
Yeah, page 4 is the last objective for that goal. That was taken from the map. Or did the, no, visual mapping. So.
Which
that was
street
just
is
a
Davis?
description.
Let's look
Yeah.
at the map real quick.
Yes, that was just a description.
Oh, it's the
Behind
alley?
Julie's.
Behind the hardware.
Oh,
But what's down on Keith?
I don't know.
That
That was my
is
next one.
the,
That's-
that's Bob's
that's part of it.
parking, that's Bob's driveway.
Yeah, I think the sign is on South Street that says that, and then
So that's
Davis.
just
Oh,
describing
they
that
hit
red
that.
area.
Okay, I
I'm
can't
not
picture
sure any of those.
Davis
are
Alley
official.
and Donald Keith Drive.
Is
and-
any one of those truly a legal name of those roads as far as?
Don Keith is a private private road, basically. Davis Alley is ours.
Donald Keith is one that runs next to Brenda's.
Right.
Yes.
And then Davis Alley is what
Behind-
meets it at Hamilton.
Yeah, that's the one that runs
Gotcha.
this
Okay.
way.
Behind the hardware.
I thought the whole thing was
store.
Davis Alley, I've never noticed.
I didn't know there was two names. I didn't know there was a name.
I only noticed it.
And
after.
I know there's
But
two.
it's only
Okay.
that one little short
It's all
leg
about the
that kind
branding.
of goes
I've been
back
here
by
for
the
20
propane.
I know,
Over 5
I've never
years?
noticed, I drive it almost every day.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So this mixed development is talking about west of the creek, being right up to, almost up to Larry's.
Right, this map shows exactly, basically that text is describing this red area right here. Which is referenced in the key right here, yeah. But I got to figure out how to make it an objective.
And word that
Could
not.
just leave that out, yeah.
Well, that encourage mixed-use development on both sides of Mill Street, just west of the Historical Society Creek. So west of the creek, that's the Johnson's yard.
That's what I mean, most of it isn't
I-
passable.
So.
Yeah, that's,
There's one
Well, don't go too far with that. So basically, so here's the existing future land use plan, right?
yeah.
And it shows this is the downtown area and this color right here. And so the difference on that is that that extends down a little bit further down to this parcel right here.
Which
And-
includes the three
and
stores that are
takes out
there.
the fire
And
department,
this is identified
post
as
office.
gateway. So it's not that it's necessarily not a mixed use area. This could still be a mixed use area right here, the gateway.
The only thing is the existing use on north and south of Mill Street with that tiny little red bar there. The south is a private residence. That's our neighbors, the Johnsons. And then on the other side is, I believe that's the group home there, isn't it?
And isn't
Yeah,
that where
right
the
on the corner.
skateboard store is?
It's right on the corner of Kersley and Mills, the group home.
Oh,
Where?
that's the other side of the,
Yeah, they're looking at the west side of the creek. I think.
that's where
Where are you
the
talking about?
skateboard store was. The other side of the creek
Oh, yeah,
there
there's that
is
little,
that building.
and then, yeah,
How do
there's
we- how
that
do we
street.
get up there?
There's
No,
an
I
apartment,
beat the heck
there's
out
a
of me,
store,
that's what I was talking about.
and the medical place.
But yeah, okay,
Yeah, but
the
you're
group home's
talking-
one's more, but there is that little building there that's right on that north side.
That's what that also
Okay.
encouraged.
But the south side really is private property.
Private
so-
property. I just pulled that right, yeah, there's an
It's
also.
both sides of the Mill Street, east, west of the Historic
Yeah.
Society.
Yeah, right.
And that again is part of the Gateway District currently.
So that's already mixed use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I think we're consistent.
so it's consistent with our current.
With the
plan.
current
It's really
plan.
not over new.
Yeah.
Oh, 150 feet past the creek. So, stopping at Johnson's line.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how far they went up towards the creek.
Yeah, that's
So
what I'm saying, it's right there.
if this is, if it's already mixed use, because it's part of the gateway both on South and Mill Street, why would you need
It's an it's an objective,
it? Yeah.
because there might be other things that you can do to encourage it, other than
Okay.
just showing on the master plan, like,
Okay.
you know, we may revisit the zoning, or the DDA may provide some other
Okay.
things that might help to encourage
Right.
it.
And we know that things could change in that area if, I think, hold up that one again.
The input?
Yeah, the input one.
Let's see.
Yeah, because one of the things that is, right now, they don't have, which was part of the downtown area, but now I see on this map, it's not in the red, it's where the post office is and where the current fire department is. But it does look like the township offices are included in there. Or maybe the township offices are actually back behind where the public, so the drive to the township offices is there.
In the blue.
Township offices right
But,
there.
yeah. The blue is across the park.
The old one, the old map, looks like it included the township offices, not part of it, but anyway.
Well,
What's
the-
this park right here? This shows, well.
That
this
shows the development that they're
proposed
talking
They
about.
want, yeah, development on the creek.
Mixed use, restaurants, coffee shops, whatever, yeah.
A lot of private land there too. This is private, this is private.
You know?
This isn't. Well, there's the creek, so the mill's right next to the creek, so whatever those parcels are that make up the mill property. Aren't private, but everything else is.
Would you guys say that this is, you know, going back to the point that you brought up is, you know, maybe we don't need to get so specific in terms of the description here, if it's gonna be on the future land use map.
Right.
You know, both of these are in mixed-use districts.
Now, that
See, I think
came
people,
in-
I
that
think
came
people
from
don't
the
understand
feedback
it
from-
now, but
Yeah, that came in
That
from
it
the
is
feedback.
mixed use.
Yeah, because
Well, it's taken directly from this, which is the feedback.
yeah,
But I think
that's
if we
what
show
people
it.
said they would like to see. in those areas.
Right, but if we show it on a future land use plan as mixed use, then we basically,
Right.
which is.
you know,
Yeah.
encourage
Have it
investment in the
described.
gateway district for mixed use, because the the downtown district's already mixed use.
Okay. Yeah, I think that this, I think if we take a look at our current map and we have downtown basically covers all of that except for that one little piece. And that one little piece really isn't feasible for us to say, hey, we're gonna try to encourage downtown. Johnson, you gotta develop this. Put a coffee shop on your yard.
Yeah.
But they put it up for sale and a business owner can buy it and possibly do that.
Right.
You have two parcels and
But it's
that's all
still,
it would
even
take to
as,
turn
even
that into
as
something.
Gateway is still mixed use though, which means that we can still develop that. I
Without
don't
any-
think we have to specifically call it out in the
No,
agreement.
that's
We can
what I'm saying.
focus more on, say, the downtown zone. We can focus on that development.
Right.
Because I think if we hold up the two maps, the downtown zone overlaps and it actually includes more than just that area.
Okay.
So are you eliminating that last paragraph?
Well, actually, I just changed it to say encourage continued mixed-use development.
Period.
Maybe say especially focused in the defined downtown area, because you have gateway and then you get downtown. And I think the downtown is what most of this focus is on too.
So, as Tanya just said, anybody that wants to buy one of those properties can do like Willow Point, you know, turn it into some kind of shop, or like the beauty
Brenda's.
shop. Well, Brenda's too, like the beauty shop on the corner in Narren Street there. No. That's just a house that they decided to make into a beauty
Well,
shop.
all
So
of them are
that could be
on the
applied
antique places
anywhere.
and Skeleton Key and
Mhm.
Bellrich House.
Right?
Okay.
So it's all
I'm just curious
written
because I
from
do recall reading through this stuff, there were some comments further down about potentially taking a look at the entrance on Church Street as another entrance into the village, instead of just the mill
Right.
and South Street. And if we potentially looked at emphasizing the church entrance too, then, you know, I wonder if there's any need to think about whether that street should become maybe a gateway.
Community identity.
You
I
mean
think at
over
this
by
time, probably
Oakwood, or
not.
you
Church
mean
Street.
Church
Church
Street?
Street.
In Oakwood.
At Oakwood, okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
because right now, the main entry points that we focus on is on M15, you know, the
Right.
South Street and the Grange Hall Mill Street.
Mhm.
So,
So
the
if,
church is already a mixed use because it has two churches on there, for one thing.
Well, churches are kind of like,
it's not
they
intended to
can
be
pretty much go anywhere they
mixed
want.
use.
I don't mean that, I mean,
No
there's
pun
there's
intended.
residents, and then there's a couple of churches.
Yeah, but
So
churches are kind of like a special case, they
Yeah, they
pretty
don't
much can
count.
go wherever they want.
So if you look at page 11, we do say consider Church Street as an additional gateway to the
Right.
village.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think at this point, maybe it'd be a little premature to change any designation for gateway along church, because we don't really have any,
Well,
we
then-
do have churches, but we don't really have any real businesses along that area.
Well,
Most of them.
But that's all residential
Yeah, well, most of
There's
Mill
no-
Street is too.
mix.
There's a few right out towards M15, and but there's most of the houses and homes along Mill Street are all residences.
But the point
But
of
that's
this,
gateway, not mixed use.
the point of this
Yes.
is
Right.
having that just
So
as
did you
another
say mixed
main.
use
I
or
said-
gateway?
Yeah, if
Yeah.
Church Street becomes an entrance too, then that could potentially be another defined gateway corridor.
Oh, gateway.
that
I
would
thought you said
allow
mixed
mixed
use.
use.
Okay.
Well, the gateway allows mixed use, it's not strictly residential, it allows mixed use, which means it allows the opportunity for somebody to take their home and turn it into a shop too, or a business.
I think the purpose of that suggestion was just to, I made it, but I'm sure other people might have, was to just advertise another way to get downtown from the north, or from the east, coming out of Oakwood Road, rather than, we only had originally two proposed ways to get downtown, Mill Street from M15 and then South Street. And what about Oakwood Road? So that's what the purpose of that was, not necessarily to change the use there.
I guess what is the definition of a gateway? I'm new to all this, so.
Gateway.
So it allows for other uses?
Existing plan.
I mean, I don't need necessarily one out of the book, but just what it.
Actually, yeah,
Typically,
we
when
almost
you're
have
talking-
some zoning map.
The current master plan is actually right in front of you and Larry, and that should have all the definitions and everything right in it.
This is the parks.
But I mean, what, it just allows for other uses, is that?
Yeah, like someone said, here's a picture of what it's supposed to look like. And you can see it's residential in character, but it may allow for businesses to go into a home like a, an attorney or something like that, but not to tear down the existing home and put up a strip center.
But if somebody wanted to open a beauty salon out of one of those houses.
Yeah.
That would allow for it.
There you go, Bob, that's the current definition of gateway,
A lot more
and
than I needed.
it covers the uses that
We
are
don't
in
want any
there
rumors here.
and the purpose for it, so.
Thank you, Liz. You're so pretty.
Yep, that's why you make
Right.
I'm serious.
Okay, let's see where we go.
Okay, so,
Is that something that we have an electronic copy of?
Yes.
That would be nice to have.
the entire plan?
I guess.
Why not? Let's go break.
The master plan?
Yeah,
Isn't
have an
it on,
electronic copy.
Isn't it on the village website?
It
already?
is, but somebody's just requested an electronic copy and I can give it to them.
Oh, okay.
Because when you don't always have access to the internet, you can still have your master plan.
Well, you can download it and upload it locally.
Right.
That's fine.
Through my email.
Does anybody else
So
want an
we're leaving
electronic
that in there,
copy?
I'm sure she does that what they, for, as a
Yeah.
seat.
Need one, would you? I'll stick it
I
in
believe
my.
I already have it.
So on page, I guess the next objective or goal is residential development. On page 6. Not a lot of changes really there. We did reinforce, comments regarding biking, hiking paths, and other amenities that came up.
I think the only thing that I would suggest is that on that second one, just striking, if not used for a wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Because that's pretty much a dead issue now, isn't it?
Currently.
Put a lot of if nots on other things in there, if you're gonna use that kind of thing,
Correct.
there's no need for it.
Okay. Fishing, kayaking, canoeing access.
Is the creek really deep enough to kayak?
Sometimes.
Is it?
Mhm.
No, I've never been in it, to be truthful.
Possibly some places.
I know.
Possibly some places.
24 or 5 years.
That's
Never-
enough.
I've
Oh,
never done
there's times when it's way too deep, when it's like
Well,
right
no,
over my
Over near
backyard.
Beaky's there when it floods.
When it floods, but
In the spring.
then it's back down to, isn't it normally shallow?
It's normally, I would say, I would guess in most places, what do you say, probably on average maybe knee deep.
Yep.
Oh, was it that deep? Okay, I didn't realize.
And there's some little spots that are just deep.
Oh, okay.
And there's some
Normally.
spots where you would, put it over
Back
the
there
logs.
behind where the tennis courts are, we used to swim there.
Really?
And there's a deep hole in there. Right, I've tubed that thing, but it was back
Okay.
maybe in the 50s.
Before the ash trees died and they all fell over the feet.
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to swim in there too often in the middle of the summer. More?
Well, please say it.
No, what? Don't
About
swallow the
this
water.
fabulous article that's
Don't
going on?
swallow the water.
No, the article that did come out on Saturday telling people, the best way to avoid getting sick is not swallowing the water when you're.
Avoid E. coli, don't swallow the water.
Yeah.
Yes, once again, they didn't say Escherichia coli, just E. coli, which is not correct.
But I thought it was a good article.
Yeah,
Okay,
my wife
any-
said something about
Page 8,
that
right?
too.
Yep.
Page 8.
You mean word down, please. Okay.
Everybody's on agreement on all the rest of those things? Yes. Okay, cool.
What's funny are these things that have been in here for how long and they're finally hot points with the traffic calming and everything else that I'm very excited about.
That's good. Okay, page 9, walkable community.
Now, promote eateries, no, the only thing I'm looking at on page 8, so is promote eateries and coffee shops.
Impact Nutrition just went in.
Is it? A lot of people really like
Things
that.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They think it's really great.
We have
So I
Papa
guess
Bella's.
I guess that is really stopping short of saying restaurant.
I really like Papa Bella's.
Right? We eat there.
Well, and the other thing is, when I was reading this, hopefully I interpret this correctly, is this wasn't just the downtown, it was non-residential development.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
At appropriate locations within the community, not downtown.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't, okay, that's true, it doesn't.
And it's still one, it's not.
Well, I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It says within the community. So we have a broad enough.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's something. Or the walkable community.
Pretty well supported here, isn't it?
Okay?
So just, would
Yep.
restaurants or eating places be under service? You know, is that a service business?
Well, I know that our
Well, what would
cafeteria
it
is
be not?
provided
What
by
would it
food service, so.
There you have it.
I'm just asking, considered a service
It's
or under
not
some
something-
other
I
category?
know it's not, but
Yeah,
Well, retail, I guess you could.
that's where I was confused.
So are you suggesting a change?
No, I'm asking, is it a service or what category does it fall under, retail or service?
Restaurant?
Yes, something.
I would say it depends on whether it's a full-service restaurant or if it's carry-out or something like that. But it would definitely fall under these commercial, this range of commercial uses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 8, Vicky's has an S in there,
Yeah, they misspelled
typo.
that.
Third from the bottom.
Oh, that was just the input.
Sidewalks to Vicky's.
I wonder if they misspelled it when they gave the input. I noticed that too.
Okay, those don't get, when we do the, let me just, these parts don't get
Correct.
published.
Those
These
are
just
like
the notes.
footnotes. Those are just
Yeah.
Oh,
reference.
oh,
So you have
you're
the goal
looking at
and you have these
comments,
statements under the goal, and then
The ones underneath, you won't see
the
those.
stuff below,
That
the
was the
blue
raw data.
stuff is
Yeah.
the data that we derive those statements
Okay.
from. So this is the goal statement, and then we got, these are the objectives.
Right.
But you did bring out, it's a good point, because one of the big things that we keep hearing is that, you know, not only Oakwood, Granger, but Beekys, that path through or something, so you may want to,
Absolutely.
you may want to include Beekys as a primary.
The shopping plaza ad.
Well, I have said we should just
Shopping.
annex that to Groveland, but I don't think we can really do that.
It'd be nice to connect to both the bike pathways and the
Well,
sidewalks.
it'd make things easier for our fire department too, because if they had to respond to something in Beekys, they wouldn't have to call Groveland. to
That's
respond.
Groveland.
I know,
It's not us.
I
It's
know,
not our
but if
area.
we annex that little
Talking about
piece.
annexing.
Oh.
They tried that once, when I was on downtown
I
PDA,
don't.
they went over to Groveland.
What would be the
and made
benefit of
that
it?
pitch right initially, and it took about 30 seconds, and they were asked to leave.
Yeah, I know that
There would
would
be no
have no
benefit for
traction
them.
whatsoever.
No.
But I mean, it would be logical for it to be part of the bill, but it's not gonna happen, I know that.
What are park features along the creeks? Is that
I think
referred
he
to?
tried for feet.
No.
That last one in the red, you're looking at provide sidewalks or trails to existing and proposed recreation areas in the village? No. Oh, yeah.
In the village such as Narren and park feature areas along the creeks. That's just kind of a confusing statement, I guess, so far anyway.
It could be two.
Yeah, are they
It could be
talking
two
about-
separate ones.
Are they talking about recreational features?
Park features along. Park features, yeah, these are all the park features.
Right.
So
Maybe it
then
should be
they
such as Narren
include-
Park and other park features.
There you go.
Because Narren Park is the title of that
Right.
park.
And actually, park features doesn't.
Because we have Narren Road and Fair Street and Narren Park.
And then if you are gonna include that term, park feature areas along the creeks, park features would probably be not
Lowercase.
capitalized.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not anything specific.
Now, I know that a lot of those things are private property, but exactly how far does, like, I know, like, along any type of body of water, there's a certain, like,
Public
public
access.
access area. How far would that extend on either side of the
That's
creek?
true.
Or
I
is
think
that
that-
When you
not
own
true?
property on the creek, you own the center of the water body.
Yeah, but what about public access?
Yeah, there's like,
access.
yeah, there's public access.
I always
And
understood
areas
as
where there's
long as
public
you're
access,
in
right?
the creek, you can't get out of it.
Right,
That's
that's what I understand. From
Okay.
the DNR's
Yeah, well,
regulation.
there's that whole
trout
Lake Michigan
fishing
case
rules,
where you
and
can walk along the
If
beach.
you're in it, you're okay.
Yeah, that's what that's right.
Where you access it.
I know that. It was so many feet back from the water's edge that they even had a fit because property owners were not allowed to touch that area.
Right.
Never heard of that.
Is it public versus private? Is that the difference in lakes?
Well, I mean, the state said, hey, in order to preserve our shorelines, there was something that they went on and said, okay, yeah, this is public access area, and I think that there was some issues because homeowners wanted to ruin beaches and stuff. The state says, no, you can't be
Right.
doing
And
stuff.
treat.
That was back
Yeah.
when we were, that was years back, yeah. Last time I took a vacation.
I mean, the creek is regulated by, you know, the state, right? Can't go and fill in the creek.
DNR, you can't really do
Right,
anything. We put in
so-
dry hydrants in there, had to go through a whole
Yeah.
process to get permission to put in those dry hydrants.
Probably from DEQ, I would think.
Back then it was DNR.
Oh, it's been that long.
It was a while. Thanks, Rick.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They,
No, it wasn't. It
DEQ,
definitely was a while ago.
I think, developed after we moved here. Maybe not.
All right, page 11.
It was DNR when I first moved there.
Right. Historic community.
Okay, we have and
So,
there's
so did you wanna, Rick, were you talking about changing consider Church Street an additional entrance to the city versus
Yes.
gateway?
Yes, entrance.
Okay.
Off of Oakwood Road.
So it's not to
Direction.
confuse it with the land use category.
Right.
Right, there
Okay.
we go. And this, I actually was thinking, if you have a
A historic,
Um,
correct? The lake.
major sign at Oakwood Road and
and
M15
historic, I think it is
that
actually.
would say
in
downtown,
traditional English and historic.
entrance to downtown this
I
way,
think it's when the H is silent on
then they could come in Cedar Street and Church Street. And you could have signs up there saying,
I
you
seem
know,
to
senior
remember
center,
when I was in school they taught us this.
whatever other attractions there are from each of those.
But I think that.
Oh, Old Mill
They are
would be,
getting much
Old
more
Mill Museum
relaxed.
would be, could be advertised along Oakwood at one of those, or
Yeah.
both of those. So,
and Sound H.
not just Church Street.
But most people just say, hey, historic.
It's based on the following sound. If it's consonant, sound use, and if it's a vowel, sound use. And. So it's a.
So we had a linguistic question about whether it should be an historic community or a historic.
And the A's have it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Depends on the sound that it makes. The
If you
beginning.
found it on the internet, it's gotta be true.
It was
Yeah,
on the Google, it was
that's
fine.
right. Enough said. All right. Any other comments on these?
The-
Okay, establish areas, parks to preserve areas along both creeks.
And I would say approve the second one there should also include encouraging entry from the north at Oakwood Road to the downtown. Which,
Well, we have entry, is it just turning it into a gateway? I mean, if there is an entry.
I mean, put a big downtown Ortonville sign there and perhaps mention under the sign what interesting features you can get to quicker.
So
that way.
wayfinding, you're talking about wayfinding signage, right?
Yeah.
I thought I saw
Including
something
the
about
old mill.
Right.
And you're talking about putting those at Church Street as well as,
So,
At Oakwood, the intersection of Oakwood and M15 should be a major signage of some sort to point people towards downtown via Oakwood Road, rather than waiting till they get down to Mill Street.
Yeah, they
They
had
don't
to
have to
consider
wait to
Church
get to
Street
Mill
as an additional gateway to the village, is right.
I know.
But where's the page, the one of it is about signage at South and 15, and you remember where that's at? There was one about defining the entrances to it. And can we put the Church Street with that one? And combine it?
Church Street by way of Oakwood Road.
Isn't that number 2, kind of basically,
What page?
on page 11?
11?
I mean, it
I
doesn't
just
go into
remember
any
seeing
in-depth detail, but it
That's
says,
what I'm saying, that's where that should
by
be.
providing entrance features, gardening,
Yes.
landscaping.
Yeah.
So that should just go
So
up
they,
in
yeah, it
the-
should
An
almost be
entrance sign.
including Church Street as the additional gateway.
Yeah.
From Oakwood Road.
That, yeah,
You had to mention
objective
Oakwood
3
Road
is
in there.
consider Church Street as an additional gateway to the village from Oakwood Road,
Right.
yeah,
That
add
would
from
be good.
Oakwood Road, that's a good.
Not
Yeah.
losing it, but keeping it
You gotta
combined
change
with
the
all the
word
other
to
ideas.
entrance instead of gateway.
Yes.
Well, the other main ways coming in are designated gateway in our,
Because as far as wayfinding, you'd probably want to do the same thing with Cedar almost too. So because you got the, you know, and the Burton, you got the ball fields, and you got the old,
Yeah.
kind of straight shot.
I think
It's not really a good travel
maybe
road, though.
the
It's
one
really
after the
narrow.
Church Street.
It's very narrow.
Yeah, I
Is
don't
there
know
any
if
difference
it uses
from-
that as an in and out.
Is it any different from church?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
at church
narrow.
evidently you could do 50.
What?
Well, yeah, they do it all the time.
It's ridiculous.
Speed bumps.
Yeah, if our clubs could get over them.
But you can barely get 2
Yeah.
cars even though they repaved that down there. That's, you know what I mean, the
Mhm,
curbs
mhm.
there.
Yeah,
I
It's
would
very narrow.
promote that,
yeah, I wouldn't either. I don't go down it, I can help it.
even if
Well,
they're
let's try to stay on topic here. We were
Just say
talking,
you're
we
right.
mentioned about wayfinding, and it seems like that would be on the point right after the concerted Church Street, is improve identification of community and village amenities such as parks with beautiful, better
Right.
signs.
Wayfinding signs.
That's in
Yeah,
the
let's put
park.
the
Just put
word right
wayfinding
in there.
signs.
Yeah.
Just add wayfinding in front of signs.
Mhm.
But I
But
think that
wasn't
would
this
come-
meaning in the parks versus getting to the parks? This is improving the parks and amenities with their signs that are at that facility, is what this reads as.
Of community village amenities. I would think that
How
part of
about-
identifying
how
them
about
is
you-
to also wayfind, direct
Too.
people to them.
Right.
You do both.
What if we add the wayfinding up front and say improve wayfinding and identification of
Okay.
community and village amenities such as
I like
parks
that,
with
because I think you
beautiful
need
better
both.
signs?
Well,
Is that,
did you get that?
because I think we put it up front, then we cover both wayfinding and identification, that covers
Yep.
both sets. And is there anything in this about consistent signage? Because I know that was one of the topics, is having a consistent
Brand,
image and
a
of
brand.
branding in the signs.
Yep.
And I did bring that up at the, I indicated that was part of our discussion with the master plan. I forgot about that, about wanting to have it, because they were talking about getting a sign for the park up behind the hill, and they opted not to do that. And I indicated that we were looking at trying to get something so that they were, all the signs for the parks and everything were, resembled one another. And they were definitely in favor of that, because I know that DDA was interested in developing something like that, so that's, but it was left at
It's
that.
right here at the very bottom of this section, on the next page, it says, consider creating historic districts and provide information and architectural styles and appropriate building materials to property owners, so
I think
architectural
that's-
styles.
I think that's
Isn't
targeted
it?
more towards private dollars, like business owners and residents
Okay.
who are doing uplifts on their buildings and stuff, as opposed to what the village itself is going to be doing with the
Okay.
village signage.
I want to point out that, just emphasize that Shelby Township has the same sign style and color color combinations throughout all their signage.
Yep, so does Holly and
And the council
Milford.
was definitely supportive of that at the meeting. They were, when we brought that up, that we had it in our discussion on the plan, and because they were talking about putting a sign at that part, and then they dropped that and said, well, we'll put a sign there, but it'll just be some kind of a basic thing until an official site there is made and a plan for signs has been developed, so.
I think we may add an objective in here that clearly talks about consistent wayfinding signage that reflects the character of the village.
Okay, yeah, with a consistent branding in the
Yep.
appearance
Okay.
and shapes and styles and stuff.
Mhm.
If we add something like that, yeah, because I think we definitely have to cover the branding aspects.
I mean, we kind of tiptoe around it here, but I say we just go ahead and plop it right in there.
Now, some of these appear to be just a little repetitive.
Yeah.
So are you guys gonna clean that up to kind of?
Yep, we'll take another read through it when we make these edits to make sure that we don't throw anything out either.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, it seems that we mentioned signs in multiple points.
And encourage building owners to restore it to the same and then maintain the historic, and that's
Yeah.
one of the same.
So maybe if we have a specific objective for creating a wayfinding and identification sign branding concept, and then anything that refers to sign, we say, okay, add signage consistent with
Right.
the branding, or something like that.
Was there a lot of, I'm a fan of roundabouts, I am, but was there a lot of favorable comments regarding roundabouts?
As I recall, it was kind of mixed, right? It's under transportation here on page 15.
I mean, because typically those things are treated like the bubonic plague, you know?
At first.
At first, I mean, like I said, I love ours
I do
up
too.
there.
Oregon's adding several up along Baldwin.
Well, Grand Blanc or Burton, they had to actually put a video on their Facebook page to teach people how to go
That
through
use
one.
it.
I believe that's the only way we'll ever get Granger Road and South Street and M15 connected
Well-
correctly.
I agree with you.
At that
Yes.
dangerous corner.
Yes.
That nasty corner.
I think that's a great place for a roundabout. The other one I think is a great place for a roundabout, but it's well outside the village limits, is at Oak Hill and Sashemon, where they right now changed it to a four-way stop.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So that was
If that was a
bizarre.
roundabout,
Traffic is
it
backed
would
up everywhere.
Back up?
Yeah.
keep the traffic
Yeah,
flowing good, but it would also
remember
allow
that.
the cross traffic much more safely and slow everybody down.
Yeah.
But is the objective there versus maybe the roundabout, is the
Yeah,
objective to
it was a
improve
visual reference survey.
safety of Granger and M15 entrance specifically?
I would say so, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
The roundabout at Granger would be a safety, not just slowing people, that would be safety too.
That'd be huge.
Yeah,
safe.
yes.
Yeah, it would-
Way
I
too
mean,
many
because someone
times
here
today.
brought up the fact that maybe at Granger, what you need is a no left turn sign and more maybe a
Certain hours.
Motor City left-hand
Michigan left.
turn.
Motor City left?
Motor City.
Michigan left?
It's a
Michigan
Michigan
left.
left.
In order to get into the
Motor
casino,
City.
in order to get into the casino.
Do we know do you plan to show the old mill beams? Do you plan to show that?
Where's that
I
at?
saw that. I was curious about that myself.
Oh, in the comments?
Red
Right,
or is
on
it-
page
oh, yeah.
12.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm just wondering if there was anything further on that.
Plan to
No.
Because I thought we
So-
do.
feature or.
That's a
or
resident.
Promote the old mill.
Well, it's open
It is.
on Saturdays, and
Right.
people can walk through, and it's
And there's
open-
functions there, and
Yeah.
I was just curious as to what they would like to see, that, like, did
Wondering
they
if-
elaborate at all?
Was it on the map? Was it on the map? Maybe it wasn't on the map.
I think maybe what they might
Oh.
be.
Maybe
It's
they
not
don't
showing
realize
up on
it's
the
open.
map.
Ah.
No, I think.
Oh, maybe that's what, oh, I see what you're saying.
Do we plan to show it on the map? That might have been Karen.
Oh, like
Like
number
that.
5 under community.
No, I'm serious.
That's
Because
it
she
was
thought, wait a
part
minute,
of
where's
it.
the old
That was
mill?
part of
Yeah.
it.
That would make sense.
Okay, So
Because
that
I was
should
trying to
probably
think
go
if we need
under-
to like put it on our face, like their, on our Facebook, their events and things like that. We don't wanna miss out on those, but I think that's what he
Signs,
said
it was
that.
part of the entrance, you know, the visual preference survey, it was part of, it was an entrance.
I like the one thing about
That's
having
where
the
that
historic
here
sites
listed
listed.
an actual comment about.
They talked about doing the historical walk last
Oh,
summer.
They're still.
Are they doing it
They're
again?
working on it,
Oh, good.
yeah.
That was nice.
They had the meeting
Or
today.
something about one of
Under
the, that
transportation.
I want Ron Summers to be my
there
guy.
as far as an entrance, but.
Oh, no kidding.
Okay, so let's
Yep.
regroup
Because I
here
know
a
I
little
remember-
bit.
So are we on page
I just heard you
13?
guys discussing a
So we're
little
on
bit. Is
15.
there any clarification
15.
you want to share?
Moving
with
on to
us?
15, or?
We on 15?
Yeah, because that's all
On,
about traffic.
what page, on,
Encourage and efficient.
on page 15? Yeah.
Okay, so we're done with, what page is this?
The other one, the sign one, he's gonna clean up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this,
we're moving
under
up to-
transportation is where we would hopefully get a roundabout.
So if you look at the last one on page 16, says investigate the possibility of installing a traffic signal at Granger and M15. Is that what you're thinking about the roundabout?
Yes.
Okay, so then I would reword this to say,
I thought it was actually specifically said in there.
On
well,
down
it
here.
was earlier, it
Oh,
was,
okay, it's in-
I could be wrong.
It's in the people, it's in the community image.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, because it was part of the visual preference.
I would maybe say, maybe we want something a little more generic, say investigate the possibility of improving safety and traffic flow
Yeah.
around the
Mhm.
South Street and the Granger intersection area. Because there might be more than one way to do it. I don't want to
Absolutely.
exclude and say, okay, this is what, I don't want to lock us in into one specific way, but I think it's important to note that we need to investigate and find the most effective way to alleviate, provide better flow and better safety.
we could say such as roundabout or, other things, just throw it out there.
Such as a roundabout or an additional traffic signal.
Yeah.
We could include that. What do
Yeah,
you guys think?
and-
If it needs to be
Additional
included.
traffic
I
signal
actually
would be a-
asked for
Can you
that
imagine?
about
We have to
6
make
years
it.
ago, and whoever was the village manager at the time talked with the road commission, Oakland County Road Commission, and they checked on it from their office by computer, and they said, nope, you don't need it.
Yeah, I know there's some things that we have had suggestions for that basically, the gap there is a little bit too far for certain
That's
things
what they
to
said. But
be acceptable to the road commission.
that's when we were talking about just putting a
Stop by those
sign,
lines.
stop here on signal over there. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But if they made a new traffic signal at the intersection of Granger Road that coordinated with the one at South
Yeah.
Street, that would probably solve the problem and let people in and out of Granger Road. But, or a roundabout might work too. But at least that.
Or some
Yeah,
other
I
kind
think
of.
categorically
more-
mentioning it in
Just
here is a
something.
good approach, yep.
And the one above it too that says investigate stop signs, I would like to see traffic calming because
Yes.
we've already kind of thought that that's not the best avenue and I don't want to pigeonhole again.
Yeah.
Which page are you on now?
So
Um,
investigate traffic
The
16.
third one down on 16. Instead of
So-
investigate stop signs, investigate traffic, either control, calming, whatever. And,
Mhm.
I mean, do we want to say more law enforcement?
Yeah, that- I
You're,
was gonna
again,
say,
they're doing what
no.
they can and that's all that they can do. And
Yeah,
that's
I would say
not fair.
traffic calming, period.
Mhm. In the village
Investigate
Or
traffic
speeding.
calming
and
possibilities.
in the village.
Now, you guys are aware
Such
of
as stop
just
signs.
what we just did. We just purchased 2 of those
Radar
radar
things that
signs,
tell you
and
what
I've
your
got
speed is.
6 extra brackets, so we can put them at 8 locations within minutes throughout the village, and not only do they flash, but they also do like a traffic study for you, so if you leave them there for a week, it'll tell you at 1 o'clock in the morning, you got someone coming through here every night doing 50 miles an hour, So what can happen then is he can, rather than
12:55,
saying-
the sheriff shows up and waits.
there you go.
Yeah.
So instead of having to set an officer on Church Street for, 24 hours, I can say, hey, Greg, go over there at 8:30 and 1 o'clock in the morning and you'll get your culprit. You know?
4 o'clock
See,
in the
now it's at
afternoon.
1 o'clock in the morning.
So-
Just saying, they get really
I'm not
irritated
up
with me
at
because
10
I'm
in the
going
morning.
25.
It's after school, when all the high school kids get out of school.
So did we change the last one there on 16, investigate possibility of installing a traffic signal to something more generic, like?
Yeah, we already said that.
Investigate the possibility of,
Improving safety and traffic
Traffic
flow.
Mhm.
with such measures
such
as
me-
roundabout or additional traffic signal. And then, the one right above it, investigate traffic calming for, traffic safety in the village, something to that effect.
Like it.
Now, the one right above that, I do got a plan for fixing the road.
Yes, I know.
I know.
But it's kind of ties into the CIP, so it's.
Okay.
Should it be
So-
developed or should we, utilize or
Well, that's just it. We know there was already a plan that was,
continue to plan and repair? Or repair, maintain?
Yeah, continue to repair and maintain village roads.
implement plan
We already have.
or continue
We have
implementation
for the last
of-
2 years.
Yeah, I know, we've been working on that. Whoever put that in there is apparently not aware because it's been slow progress.
Wasn't anybody on Schoolhouse Street over there?
I know, I like how you rate.
Yeah, I know.
Mine's 2020.
Yeah, mine's the last one in the village.
Let's all move in with,
What?
Yeah, we're
a
gonna
couple
have to.
years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room these days.
Well, one of my suggestions for traffic calming, crazy as it might sound, is I said, just take the stripes off the roads that are in the residential areas because that will automatically slow traffic. Because when you see lines and stripes on the road, you think this is more major road and you unconsciously drive faster, I think. That's why people come flying down Mill Street past my house all the time.
I like my idea too, that I had crazy idea over the weekend or a couple weeks ago. South Street from about Skeleton Key south on the right-hand side, remove parking and put a curb, bring the curb out to the road to where you narrow South Street down and make it greenway all the way out
Okay.
to where you don't
Really
have,
safe for the kids.
and really
Yeah, then
safe
the
for
sidewalk's
kids.
not right
School
in the
walk
road.
to school,
Yeah.
yes.
You know, so you get them away because what happens now is you got those, you know, a lot of trucks and a lot of different things parking along that street. And what I've seen in the summertime is those kids get on the sidewalk and they dart across the street to get to the other side and you can't see them. You know, so if you green that up to where at least you got a, you know, and it should, maybe Rick could help me in this, it should act as kind of a miniature bioswale so you're not sending as much runoff into.
You thinking of eliminating those
Those
recently added parking spaces, is that what you're talking about?
On South Street?
Mhm.
I don't know when you recently added them, but.
Like across from the.
Recently
Yeah.
marked might be a good
Funeral
word.
Yeah.
Well,
From
they-
across
they
from the
were-
funeral.
Yeah, across from
There
the
was
funeral
work
home.
done there that
Yeah.
made
They were
some
working to
drains.
add those
It was
done there a
fixing the
while back.
drains.
So if you did about 600 foot of curb, it'd run you about 20 grand to.
Yeah, because they've also extended parking spots
Yeah.
west on Mill Street a little further than they used to
I
be.
think
But
those
see, one of the
parking-
things in here is to add parking spots. And then
Yeah.
if we take away.
And that's just his, I think.
And then the
parking
other thing is, that's all the parking for the ball fields. That's where they all park.
Oh, over on, you're talking over
Oh,
on
for
C.
the-
I'm talking
Yeah.
south.
No, no,
South Street.
for the
South
ball
For the
fields that
one
we-
at the old track
Oh.
at Harvey Swanson, they all,
Yeah,
that's the only place to
baseball field.
park.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
lot
they-
of the parking.
The old Harvey Swanson?
yeah, where Harvey
H.T.
Swanson
Bird,
is,
Harvey Swanson, there's a ball field behind it.
Yeah.
that's the varsity
I see,
baseball
they,
field.
Yeah.
they park and then they walk across the
Right.
bridge to get down there, yeah.
That's the only place to park.
Yeah,
Why don't they park at the school?
because you can't
The
get, you
library
gotta
if
go
they
all
have
the way
to.
around, because it's not always unlocked. The gates are sometimes
Yeah,
locked.
that's a funny thing.
Which is only a seasonal
But,
item.
just saying.
Yeah, you can park at the
Okay.
library.
All right.
Right.
I think we got that one.
Okay.
I think you're right.
Page
Okay.
20.
By the way, that was one of his good ideas.
I like it.
You know, he does have them occasionally.
No, I don't.
Bill, you got
Yeah.
it? Okay.
So.
Of course he does. That's why he makes the big bucks.
What page are we up to now?
20.
20, okay.
That could be a bike lane.
Maintain, expand, and improve community facilities to improve quality of life for village residents.
Yeah, and the last one on there, maybe we should take off, huh?
Which page?
Yeah, that.
Page
that-
20.
I have
No,
to go.
no,
20?
no, you leave that on there.
Promote the proper care and maintenance of personal septic system. Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, you know what?
Yep, yep,
I'm-
yep,
I'm
yep, yep.
thinking-
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's
one
important.
second.
We're getting ready.
September is Septic
Septic
Awareness
Awareness
Month.
it's really only a week, but we're making it a month.
It's a
All
month.
right. Okay.
I think that is one that is important to be in there. I think it's a bad.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry,
I
I
was thinking
misread
it
it. I've
was-
seen it's the public
You're
system.
thinking, yeah,
Yeah, no, this is personal, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm. But should it be personal? Because business,
Oh,
How about
just
residential?
septic
local,
systems.
resident, no,
Private.
and,
Just
and
septic.
business.
Just take out personal and say of septic systems.
There you go.
And village, well, you can't say village.
Just say of septic systems,
Mhm.
because that covers both businesses and
Mhm.
residences, and it
Oh.
doesn't say anything about that horrible word sewer.
Yeah, that poor little word.
Are you talking about number 2 or number?
The last one.
Oh,
The
okay.
last one.
Promote the proper care.
Yeah, promote proper care and maintenance of septic systems, period.
Yeah.
Crossman Village Park, restrooms needed. Crossman Village Park,
Well, you have an outhouse out there, what more do they want?
between
Well,
schoolhouse and
once
Mill
the
Street.
grant goes, maybe that'll help.
Between schoolhouse and Mill Street.
Yeah, it had me lost there.
What does
I
that mean?
think, don't they have, is it one of those like
Oh, just
rental
Crossman
ones
Park,
though?
period.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think they're
We
talking
don't
about more
need this
permanent
park between
facilities.
schoolhouse and Mill Streets in the village.
Yeah, that just made it
No,
confusing.
no, they want one.
In
There's
Crossman
3
Park.
listed. No, they want one in Crossman Park, they want one between schoolhouse and village, and then they want one at other village parks. They want multiple
There's a
bathrooms.
park there between schoolhouse and Mill?
No, it's a blank piece of property that they think that they can put a bathroom on.
No,
What?
just one at the park and then maybe, well, there's an outhouse
I'm
and the
not
one
sure what
on.
you're talking
I know,
about.
I'm saying, right here, is this, it's listing 3 places
Okay.
that they want bathrooms.
Yeah, where'd those specific ones come
Restrooms.
from?
At 3 different places.
Well,
Well, I
someone
think the
wants
one
that,
is
but
fine.
can we put,
Anyway,
what,
Christian.
what are we talking about is a restroom between schoolhouse and Mill Street?
That's
What are
the-
we talking about?
Crossman Park.
Well, that's what I
It's
thought.
basically, it's listed twice.
They're talking about a specific location. it
The
looks like.
empty
The
piece,
one-
I think you're talking about,
I
what's
see the
his
one
name,
comment says toilets at Crossman Village Park.
Restroom.
But then they're saying between Schoolhouse and Mill Streets.
in the
Yeah, what does
village.
that mean?
Which
In
is-
the village,
Where's
the
the
one
one that-
across from the old
Oh,
mill,
so
blank
in
piece
the
of paper.
village.
Oh,
So another
so
Then
there
they
is
want
the
one
store.
in other parks.
Yeah, but where from
So
the
So
public input
eliminate
do we get
between
those
schoolhouse
those
and
ones?
Mill Street in the village, right?
Well,
Evidently.
Trying to determine there.
Yeah,
Well-
I'm trying to determine where we got these
Because
specific
Crossman
places
Park
from,
is
the
between
feedback that's provided.
schoolhouse and Mill.
provide restrooms is needed across.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Throw
It's on the
restrooms
next
in
page.
public- in
At
private
least 3
property.
restrooms are needed.
We're not
That
gonna
was
put
from
that in
M.
here.
What was the M? Is that where people put things on the map?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, exactly.
So we don't need between schoolhouse and Mill Streets unless there's something
Okay.
I'm not understanding yet.
Well,
I was lost
I
there.
like how you've got.
Then, but this is, on the next page is where, this is where those 3
Right.
specific
in the mixed use area,
on the
Well,
map.
Oh,
okay,
okay.
and that, while we're
This
at
area
it,
would make more sense.
between schoolhouse and the,
is the old mill property considered a village park? And we certainly could entertain one there. Who owns the old mill?
we
The
do,
village,
yeah.
is it
That's what I
a
thought. It is a park. isn't it?
historical
The Village
property,
Mill
so there could be
has
a park,
restrooms
correct?
in it when
Yeah.
it's open, right?
Well, it's
Yeah, it's
open.
treated like a park in my mind.
Because it's a
Yeah,
historical.
but I
park.
mean, there are
Registered.
restrooms in it when
Right.
it's open.
Yeah.
But they're not available when it's not open, right?
No.
There's a restroom.
So people could still come to that
Nice
area
new
and they would not
restaurant.
have
So-
access to a restaurant.
A nice new restaurant,
Mhm.
it's ADA compliant.
My point is, if we're gonna add restrooms outdoors, like at Crossman Park, and other village parks, that should include the old mill property, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
if the grant goes through, there's going to be one added at the ball fields. There is an outhouse at Crosman,
There's a portable outhouse,
yes.
Yeah, for one.
that's what I'm saying.
And a portable at Narren.
I thought there were restrooms at ball fields.
There is a
They're
development.
They're going to be
Not
re,
stand.
In
Yeah.
yes,
They
there is
definitely-
one in it, but it's not accessible unless there's ball going in. It's locked, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's only open when there's
Right.
events going on, yeah.
Right. But the
And so
restructure
it's similar like
should be
the mill then.
corrected.
There is an accessible restroom when there's activities that are officially going on there, but when they're not available.
Okay, so above that, the DPW property, is that an obsolete facility?
Mm-mm.
Why is that listed as
I just don't know.
abandoned or obsolete facilities, DPW property?
Where are you at?
On the second
On
one on page 20,
20,
20, the second,
DPW property.
Abandoned or
See,
They're
and
not
I think-
talking about
I think-
Darren, are they?
We've already discussed use of Naren earlier, so this is
Right.
redundant. What this originally was put in here for was if the black language, excuse me,
right,
was words, if somebody were to abandon a house, like they did over here, you know, and we tore it down here
Yeah.
8 years ago. That's what that black language was for, not, I mean, we've got other language in here that talks about the skate park, you know, that's a city, that's a village park. They just
So-
happen to be taking the, you know, we've said earlier, hey, you wanna put a splash pad in or do something with it, you know.
so my question is, DPW property is not either abandoned or obsolete, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's still planned to
So
be
it's
used?
redundant, so all the
Strike
red
the
stuff,
red
Red,
language,
right.
strike
the
it.
red ought
That
to
was
all be
taken correctly.
stricken.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just didn't know that the DPW.
Because
was
we've dealt with
obsolete.
the other property and the skate park in another
Strike that.
place.
Yep.
So just strike all the red.
All right, sounds good.
Sound good.
Okay, thanks for that.
So we'll remember.
Moving forward.
This must be what I came here for.
Again, we have those proposed park areas. And I suppose that's okay as an objective, whether it's an attainable objective or not is to be determined, I guess, yet. But I think it'd be okay to have that as an objective, those park areas along the creeks.
So
Just change it to lowercase.
moving on,
Yeah.
moving on to 25.
Yep.
The rest of it's the same as the current. No, there's nothing new there.
Yeah. Okay, goal, ensure ongoing community planning and implementation of the master plan.
Yeah, I like the first one.
Yeah, it works real good for students.
I like the idea of the first one.
The idea was great, but if you,
Specifics?
Anarchist.
Thank you.
I don't know, I've been getting pretty excited about doling out fines and tickets, I don't know.
I see, I think all of that's very negative.
So what I took out of that, what I just scratched is the last, where it says instead of using punishment. So I said provide encouragement for citizens to comply. Because you are eventually gonna get to the point where you gotta
Yeah, I
bring
mean,
the stick.
we have
Exactly.
situations or examples to where literally, you know, we had a junk truck, but I won't say where, but 2 previous managers had wrote the people letters to get rid of it. I wrote them 2, and then I said the next letter I was gonna write will contain a $500 ticket, and the truck was gone in like a day.
Yeah. Caught their attention.
You know, so, I mean, there comes a point where you've gotta, I agree that, you know, we need to try to talk to people, but, and most people do respond without threatening.
Or the ticket.
I like the third one too.
So
Yeah,
this,
but I'm thinking about,
The third one seems like it would be also or mostly appropriate on page 23, I think.
Third one, page
Village
Yeah.
land use decisions.
I think we have to rely on our planning McKenna to give us the right legal.
Sure.
Actually, I think I get your point. Maybe separate out the piece about the joint village township recreation plan and insert that into the previous one. Use the joint village township recreation plan to guide decisions. And insert and put that under the preserve and protect natural features, because that's really where that piece is more appropriate. Because you're including both the master plan and the recreation plan under that objective 3.
Does it need to stay on this page, or can the whole thing be
Well,
moved?
well, I was
Because
just
what
gonna
would
say,
stay?
take the recreation plan and move that under the preserving the natural features, because that's really more, I think, where it might be a better fit, as Rick pointed out.
But I don't think this needs to stay. You're restating the goal. The master plan will coordinate with the planning commission, ensure ongoing community planning in the master plan. I mean, that's restating the same thing as the goal, correct? If you take out the rec.
Ortonville's master plan and joint village township, oh no, I'm sorry, Ortonville's master plan will guide all land use decisions.
If I was gonna, I would say.
Oh, I thought you were
use
taking the land
Ortonville's
use
master
out.
plan. Well, that's what I was suggesting.
That's what I mean.
As based on what Rick had mentioned, is
Mhm.
if we take the
I kind of agree.
recreation plan out and move it over to the previous plan.
So what I,
But, go ahead.
oh, well, I was just gonna say, Ortonville's master plan will guide land use decisions. Ortonville's village township recreation plan will guide decisions regarding natural features,
Well,
right? In a separate location back in the, we're talking about natural
But they
features.
do land use as well.
And
For
the master
the
plan.
master plan for the
also
parks.
Deals with the parks.
Wouldn't it?
The
Mm,
natural area.
No?
It did.
Not land uses necessarily. It's how you use the parks. So I get your point there, but it's mostly how you make improvements and things like that in the parks.
Yeah, the recreation plan.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't the master plan that we made before deal in some detail with the natural areas and the parks?
Yep.
So you couldn't separate the two from community planning and implementation of the master plan, this goal. You can't separate out that we're only gonna follow the joint village township recreation plan for the natural areas and the master plan for everything else, because those areas are in the master plan as well.
We'll take a crack at separating those out so it's clear.
But anyway, we could probably stay just the way it is. Since it covers this previous page that way too.
Reviewing the zoning ordinance to include downtown, that is in the zoning ordinances, the businesses.
Right.
I think we already have
Yeah,
a
we do.
downtown section in our current plan.
In
And
the
so do we
zoning.
need number 2? Because we already
It's already
have that.
done, we can get rid of it.
Yeah, it's right there.
Well, this is the future land use plan.
Yeah, and I think that was for the.
No, yeah, number 2 it's already done.
Yeah.
And I think that after we did this, we did
The zoning.
redid the zoning also.
Right, yeah. Right.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I think we already took care of that.
Okay.
You can take the extra that out of the 6.
Why not just incorporate 6, 1, 2, 3,
That bad?
4?
Yeah.
Number 5, where it says work closely with the DDA to encourage new businesses. why not just incorporate that into the previous statement?
Right.
Because it is one of those governmental organizations that,
Mhm.
you know, is there a purpose to split that out separately from the previous statement? Or just add DDA as,
I think
So
just
you
it's right,
put-
because it's a suggestion, so.
You could put to encourage new businesses as an additional thing in the previous paragraph, if you wanted to do that. Because otherwise, the previous paragraph doesn't say anything about encouraging new businesses.
well, all you do, and other government organizations, including the DDA, through the exchange of information on development and redevelopment issues and other shared interests such as community facilities and services, comma, business development, comma, conservation developments and development among shared boundaries.
There you go.
And like I said, you can easily incorporate that into one objective, I think. Because they really are the same thing, just,
Is the
Yep,
DEA a
other
government
agencies.
organization?
yes. Am I right,
Isn't it?
Tanya?
What'd you say, I'm sorry?
Is a DDA a government organization?
Yeah.
So where would you put that?
I mean, they're umbrella under the village, but they are still,
They have their own source of funding,
Certified,
they
yeah.
make their own decisions.
So would you put DDA after school district or after?
anywhere.
Okay, that's it, that's the last one.
All right.
Boy, that was,
So then you guys improve it, and then shoot it to us for the 21st, right?
Yep,
Along with the land use plan.
exactly.
And then when we get together again on the 4th, we would go through this, try to finalize it, right? Again.
Okay, so what is, in your view, what is our homework to do from this review?
Vision.
Well, yeah, revisit the vision statement, but just get ready for the future land use plan, which is gonna be landing in your laps here in next week. Let's get ready, brace yourselves.
So you're gonna supply vision, updated copy of the goals and objectives plus future land use plan by the 21st.
Yep,
And then our takeaway would be then to review the future land use plan between the 21st and the 4th and the goals and objective and vision, so that when we get back together on the 4th, we'll be reviewing.
we'll spend
All
a few
three.
minutes going back over this, make sure got that all wrapped up,
Get any final
and then spend most of the time on the future land use plan.
And any of the bottom stuff, the raw data will be gone at that point.
We'll take that off. Sound good?
very well done.
All right.
All right. So we are done with goals and objectives update. Our next agenda item would be complete streets. And there was a item in your,
So at the last meeting, we talked a little bit about, what the complete streets policy was all about. So we sent this information to you that just kind of describes what the intent is. So I don't know, does anyone, so we stopped short in the last master plan of actually having a complete streets policy in there. We've drafted the complete streets policy that'll go into this one, but instead of distributing it now, I think I'll wait until we get to that section of the plan, unless you guys want to see it now. No, I'd rather look at this a little more before we unleash it on you guys. But basically, having a complete streets policy will give you the ability to sit down with the road commission, MDOT, and say, this is what our expectations are. We want to make sure that we have adequate facilities for people of all abilities and that sort of thing. So you need to have it. Plus, it's part of the state act now.
yeah, and I think the state act, it looks like it became that became law in 2010, and our last major update was done in 2008, so that was before this
Yeah.
was in effect.
Just missed it.
Yeah, so I mean, we had the concept, we already knew we were aware of the concept, tried to cover it in there, but we
Yeah.
didn't have the formal
Right.
act at that time.
Right, yeah.
Can you give an example of a sidewalk bulb out? What does that mean?
So a bulb out is when you get to the corner,
I think that's-
or even a mid-block crossing, where you don't want people that are running between cars to get from one side to the other. So, I don't have anything to draw on, but so it's basically, you extend the sidewalk a little bit to narrow the distance that a pedestrian has to walk across the street. You know, it's, okay, I gotta draw this.
Yeah.
My mind is going.
Try the back on me.
Here we go. So let's see. So you got on-street parking, then you get to the corner, and it kind of bulbs out like that. So here's where the cars park, right?
DPW hates those things.
And then here's where, and this is where the sidewalks are, right. This is the sidewalk here, so it narrows the distance that you have to walk across. So here's the crosswalk right there.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the sidewalk, but then it kind of gets larger area for pedestrians to be over here, and then sometimes there's mid-block crossings. If you've been to like downtown Milford, right in the middle of the block, they have that crosswalk.
And that probably also includes
Where it
strict
stands out
crosswalk
right here.
designation on the road and all
You
that.
got some of those right downtown Lansing.
Yeah, it's intended to make it safer for pedestrians to cross. So a lot of the TAP grants that are being awarded now are going to these kind of things. And historically, there has been a lot of DPW people who don't like it because it interferes with snow removal and things like that. But I think they're gradually kind of losing out on that argument.
Yeah.
So,
I
there
can
you
see
go.
when you come up at it, it's kind of, would probably potentially have a traffic calming. When you see that bulb out
Oh.
and designated, it's like, oh, you know, it makes people more aware they watch and they probably slow down their consciousness.
Absolutely.
So that is one of the things that we can think about under traffic calming.
Yeah, when we get to the project section, that'll be some of the projects.
Okay, and you guys are going to incorporate a true complete streets type
Yep,
position statement or something in the master plan.
yeah, we have a draft already, but yep.
So we're fortunate this time around that we don't have to just go through all that and work it out. It's required by law, so you guys just plug it in. Eh?
That's right. I mean, you'll want to look at it, make sure it sounds like it's consistent with, you know, the rest of the, you know, the objectives here and consistent with your values and things like that. It's not just a cut and paste, you know.
Well, I think it's pretty clear from a lot of the community input that complete streets is totally in alignment with people's desire for a more walkable community and accommodate bikes and other modes of transportation.
Yeah, I don't think when they even adopted the complete streets concept back in 2010, they anticipated the amount of bike traffic that's now becoming, you know, everywhere, you know, so.
Yeah, when we were growing up, we rode bikes on the sidewalks all the time. Nobody bothered us.
Yeah. That's where there were sidewalks, or you rode it down the middle of 14-mile road or on the shoulder when you had cars coming up.
That's
The gravel shoulder, yeah, you're going down, pedaling away on, and all of a sudden a car comes behind you, oh, I gotta swerve around the shoulder, that was dangerous.
Yeah, we just did a non-motorized plan for Livonia. And it was a culture change, you know, trying to, you know, they didn't have sidewalks in a lot of areas and things like that, especially on the main roads.
It's interesting in some communities where you see this beautiful sidewalk come along and then it just ends and there's just a field and you're like, why? What was the plan here?
Right,
So I think that it's good that we do have friends here. Okay, so if that's it, anything else from you guys?
No, that's all we got for tonight.
Okay,
Okay.
so let's move on
Thank you
to
very
item
much.
D, capital improvement plan.
Pass that around. And I don't know if you guys want to beat this to death tonight, but I just basically put out an updated copy, a draft that I've been working with, and kind of shows you what we've done and
Do I
what.
have one? Is there one in here?
Sure.
No.
Text is rather tiny on there, I don't normally do this.
And the other, so you guys can review that at your own leisure. It's not, the closer in obviously is stuff that I've already got kind of burning on the agenda and that, but it gives you an opportunity to see what may be coming up sooner. The other question you guys asked is, as we start putting together like a 5-year plan or, a budget, which is something we've never done here, we are, right now, my best estimate is that when you look at what we have available every year from the general fund, as things stand now, it's about $50,000 a year out of the general fund for projects, and then about $70,000 a year out of the roads project. So there's about probably $120,000 a year that we can dedicate to various projects, okay? You may want to, if you got 150, like for an example, our share of Cedar and Schoolhouse that we just did, and keep in mind the prices are going up right now, but that was about $110,000 with a 50% grant. That was roughly a $220,000 project if we didn't have a grant. So what you gotta look is if we're putting together a project, say we wanna do something, then if it's $200,000 project and you don't have a grant, that's what you gotta take out of your checking account. Now, speaking of checking account, what's in the checking account? Roughly at the end of next year, we'll have roughly $395,000 in the general fund and $145,000 in major streets in the checking account. So you gotta keep, when you start looking at, when I said you got $50,000 or whatever each year that you can kind of throw into that bucket out of general fund, you need to set up your reserves basically to where you want to look at what they say for a city our size is 25 to 30, when you look at general fund, 25 to 30% minimum in your cash reserves basically of what your normal expenses in general fund would be. So if you're spending, these are not the right numbers that I'm going to give you. If you're spending $300,000 a year just to operate your city, to pay wages, utilities, all that kind of stuff, then you would want to have $100,000 roughly in the bank at all times to make sure that you don't, something happens, you're not dead in the water. So we've had a lot more than that in the past year, so we are kind of spending down the reserves right now to do some of these projects. Buying the new tractor, you'll see when you get into some of these equipment things that, we need to plan for a $10,000 lawnmower. We need to plan for, replacing the 1-ton truck, the snowplow truck, because that's kind of overdue. So that's going to be $60,000, $70,000.
Yeah.
That the good news is you can use. There is a, and you guys might be able to help me with this, but for Act 51 money, prior to a few years ago, people said, hey, we want you to use that for redoing roads. There has now been a total flip on that to say they're requiring you to use 10% minimum of that money to do stuff like non-motorized
Non-motorized,
trails.
Yeah,
So an example being where we had talked about Narren Ball and Myron coming out of general fund, you know, probably in order to keep us compliant with that 10% rule or whatever, we may do that project out of street money so that we can get our 10-year average or something up to where we need to have it up, so where we don't get put on probation or whatever for not spending money on motorized, you know. So it's kind of a different mindset, you know, and stuff like if you don't use, if you turn in, I know the question was asked at one of the council meetings that, you know, why are we putting labor for removing snow in there? And just got back from the Act 51 training. If you don't put it in there, they're going to reject your report because they expect you to use some of that Act 51 money not only for non-motorized trail, but also for snow removal and stuff. So if you don't have a certain amount of money in there, so it was pretty interesting training, and you know, it's something that hopefully going forward now we'll be able to put together. So I'm anxious to see your guys' input on this stuff. You know, there's a whole bunch of different things that I'd like to do going forward that I know Oakwood is going to be a challenge. I did have, and someone here I think asked the question about, we don't own Oakwood, so I talked to Oakland County, and we could use Act 51 money to help put the sidewalk in on Oakwood, but it wouldn't count towards that money that we're talking about, you know, the 10% for the thing. So it's just a possibility, and so we're trying to make some inroads there too, to see if there's a way for us to get some help from them. But
okay. I think this looks really good. So far, this is really good. And as I've said, expressed before, this is exactly what you need as a community to help work with that fund balance and understand, okay, yeah, why do we have a higher fund balance at this time? Because we're saving up for a more major project, or hey, you know, if we spend the money now, we might spend it down some, but then we will be, the next few years, we can go back up because we don't have any major expenses after that. So it really helps us to more logically manage the fund balance and reserves and things like that too.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody on master plan? That takes us to discussion items. Any discussion items?
No.
Okay. In that case, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
I second your motion.
But before we adjourn, I want to thank our visitors
Yes.
for doing such a good job today.
You're welcome.
Before today, obviously,
Thank you for your attention and
and your patience while we work through all this stuff.
No.
Really.
Before we do adjourn, I would encourage, I know Tanya's an able representative for the planning commission trustees, but I think a lot of headway's been made when you guys have showed up and give like a brief update at the council meeting, and I think it's gone a long way to help get that communication going. I would appreciate it if somebody would volunteer to show up at the next council meeting, so.
What is next council meeting?
27, yeah.
It's
It's nothing you have to take action on tonight, but it'd be good if,
Something
It'd be
going
nice
on.
to have a rotating sign-in, if at, you know, the beginning of every year when all the dates come out, you just throw it around, everybody picks their date and they go. It'd be nice to.
I'm not gonna volunteer.
It's only, what, 2 a year, if everybody divides it out?
Mhm.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
I'll volunteer for September.
Not August?
Are there, no, absolutely not, August.
We're
I have
making
some
it.
serious deadlines.
Yeah, I don't know that I can volunteer,
For work.
but I will maybe put it in my calendar to
Yeah, I'll
see,
have to
try to
look.
make it
We
happen.
are, the September meeting
I'll
will be
be
the
out of town
25th, or I'm sorry, the 24th.
24. I'd be happy to come in.
Okay, we've got a volunteer for September anyway.
Alright.
I'm writing it down.
You must have done a fabulous job.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I
Rob
missed
did a
it.
great job on that new road there on Schoolhouse.
I miss it.
Didn't miss a whole lot.
Okay, yeah, so if anybody can attend the 27th meeting, please try to do that. Council, I will put it on my calendar, try to attend, but I can't promise anything because there's a few things going on right now, and I just don't know what's
Well, it's
gonna
2 weeks
come up.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
guarantee.
we did have.
Until it gets a little closer.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Aye. Adjourn.
Well done.